Then I went to Douluo. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 326, The Mighty Imperial Master. He listened to the dirty words from those people and silently mourned for them for 3 seconds in his heart. These people openly teased his captain, and they should die miserably later. Then he suddenly realized that he seemed to be counted as one of these LSP by Tang Liu, right? So he would also die miserably later. He counted silently, including him. A total of 15 people walked towards Tang Liu. But he was in a relatively backward position now, so could he slip away immediately when Tang Liu made a move? He didn't want to die in the hands of his captain in such an unclear way. Xingluo Palace. No matter how strong this person who broke into the main hall was, in the eyes of the Xingluo Emperor, she was just a little girl. But the other party was one of the saints of the Spirit Hall, and now she was personally leading the Soul Masters to come directly to his Xingluo city, and the Xingluo Emperor could not ignore her. But why did the saint of the Spirit Hall have such confidence and dare to face him, the Xingluo Emperor, alone? You know, although his cultivation is not as good as that of Xing Douluo and Ying Douluo, he is also a real title Douluo. In addition, their Xingluo royal family has the top East Spirit, the evil-eyed white tiger, so a title Douluo like Dugubo, who is level 91 or level 2, will not be able to get any good results against him. However, now that the saint of the Spirit Hall dares to come alone and say such words, she must have something to rely on. And what is her reliance on? The Xingluo Emperor remained calm, looking at the man standing in the center of the hall, and then said, "Why do you want to ask about his whereabouts, and why are you so sure that I know his whereabouts? Who exactly is this he in the mouth of the Xingluo Emperor?" Both sides know very well. The saint of the Spirit Hall said, "I know he has been to the Xingluo Empire, and I also know that he has made a deal with Daimyo Bei." The Xingluo Emperor smiled. "Just based on these 2 points, you brought people to my Xingluo Empire and attacked my Xingluo Palace at night." The saint of the Spirit Hall nodded and said, "If it's just these 2 points, of course it's not enough for me to be sure that you will know the whereabouts of Tang Liu." The Xingluo Emperor asked with some interest, "Then why did you make up your mind to find out the whereabouts of Tang Liu even if you had to attack my Xingluo Palace at night?" The saint of the Spirit Hall's eyes lit up, and golden wings spread out from behind her. She spoke slowly, and her voice echoed in the hall, like a holy and noble hymn. "Because, I have the guidance of God, 2 yellow, 2 purple, 5 black, a total of 9 soul rings, rose from her feet one by one, showing that she had reached the level of title Douluo. And, judging from the aura she exuded, she was definitely not just an ordinary title Douluo. There is a great possibility that this saint of the Spirit Hall is already a title Douluo with a cultivation level of over 95th level. And judging from her age, she is only close to 30. At such a young age, she has already cultivated to a level above 95th level, which is really terrifying. Xing Douluo is restrained, Ying Douluo can't get back for a while, and Ming Douluo and Ling Douluo are also missing. Your Majesty, do you think that you are my opponent now? A light flashed, and a bright angel holy sword appeared in her hand. She held the sword and walked towards the Emperor Xingluo step by step. The expression of the Xingluo Emperor became a little solemn. He said, "You are worthy of being the Saint Maiden of the Douluo Palace who single-handedly dealt a heavy blow to the Xiandao Empire, Jin Rixu. I really underestimated you. Although your father Jin Zunji is not a good person, I have always looked down on him, but as his daughter, you are completely different from him." Jin Rixu said coldly, "My father died before I was born. No matter what kind of person he is, he can't affect me, nor the fact that our Spirit Hall is about to unify the Douluo continent." Hearing this, the Xingluo Emperor suddenly laughed out loud, and then he said, "Unify the Douluo continent? Are you, the Spirit Hall, really so confident? Ho ha ho ha, what a joke. We Xingluo are not like Xiandao, and we are no longer what you, the Spirit Hall, think we are. Unify the Douluo continent? Even if there really comes such a day, it will definitely not be your Spirit Hall." Jin Rixu sneered. "Why, do you think your Xingluo Empire will be the country that will eventually unify the continent?" The Xingluo Emperor raised his head slightly, looking at the dome of the hall with a dazed look. He said, "I don't know." Jin Rixu sneered. But the Xingluo Emperor looked at her at this time and said meaningfully, "But everything has been arranged." Jin Rixu snorted coldly and said, Don't play mysterious and riddles here. I will give you one last chance to tell me the whereabouts of Tang Liu, otherwise, today will be the day of your Xingluo's demise. I think when your people who fought hard see the head of you, the Xingluo Emperor, they will be very desperate." The Xingluo Emperor suddenly sighed, shook his head and said, "Although you have such cultivation at a young age, you are too naive after all. My Xingluo Empire is not called Xingluo because of my existence. The Xingluo Empire will not disappear because of my death. My people will not forget their country because of this. As long as there is a Xingluo person who dares to resist, the Xingluo Empire will never perish. What's more, I have already established a crown prince. I also believe that with their existence, Xingluo will surely be able to flourish. Jinringsu, then I will kill every one of your people who dare to resist, and kill Daimyo Bei." The Xingluo Emperor smiled slightly. "You are still too naive? Unless you can kill every person in the Xingluo Empire, you will not be able to completely destroy my Xingluo Empire. And with just you, the Holy Maiden of the Spirit Hall, do you think you can do this? It is true that your Spirit Hall wants to unify the Douluo continent, but what about after that? Who do you think will be the emperor? Or do you think Bibi Dong will be kind enough to hand over the throne to you? Or will Bibi Dong, the empress of the unified continent, allow you to kill nearly half of the population of the entire Douluo continent? Do you think it's possible?" Jinringsu was a little angry and embarrassed. "Stop talking nonsense. Are you going to tell it or not?" The Xingluo Emperor laughed again. "Now, even if I tell you, what? Your best chance for success has long passed." Jinringsu opened her phoenix eyes slightly. "What do you mean? Do you think you still have a chance to turn things around now?" Emperor Xingluo stood up from the throne, opened his arms, and let his dragon sleeves fall slightly. His voice was transmitted far away under the blessing of soul power. He looked up to the sky and laughed loudly. "Everything in this world is destined, and I, Xingluo, will eventually be the witness of the long river of history." He paused for a moment. "The Imperial Master is mighty." At this moment, all the Xingluo guards in the palace shouted at the same time, "The Imperial Master is mighty." Chapter 327 The Light of Truth. At this moment, the invaders who were still fighting with the Xingluo palace guards suddenly felt like they were awakened from a dream. With a flash of light before their eyes, they were extremely shocked to find that the number of Xingluo palace guards around them suddenly doubled. And those Xingluo palace guards who were killed by them before were also standing intact. And around their bodies, there were only the bodies of their own people. All the scenes around them were constantly washing their brains and cognition. They didn't understand that even with the participation of Shadow Douluo, the situation of the war had reversed. But why did the guards of the Xingluo palace now seem to be dead? Why? The incredible feeling at that moment almost drove them all crazy. All the Xingluo guards inadvertently surrounded these last invaders together, just waiting for an order to catch them all in one fell swoop. Shadow Douluo slowly walked over and looked at the last remaining invaders. He looked at these people without any emotion. Tonight's night raid is coming to an end. In the end, the invaders who survived were not the most powerful among them. However, now that he was here, no matter how much these people resisted, it would be meaningless. And if they took this opportunity to kill all these invaders, it would definitely be a great opportunity to weaken the strength of the Spirit Hall. However, Shadow Douluo finally glanced at these invaders coldly, and then said, "You go." The invaders looked at each other. "Shadow Douluo, get out of our Xingluo Empire and go back to your Wuhan Empire. I will always keep an eye on your shadows. If any of you dare to stay on any inch of Xingluo land, I will kill you immediately." The invaders were a little unbelievable. The Xingluo guards around had already made an exit at this time. "Shadow Douluo, why don't you get out?" The invaders retreated cautiously and then left immediately. At this time, the Star Guardian that surrounded the entire Xingluo palace also disappeared. At the same time, several streams of light flew rapidly towards the sky in the sky. They were the titled Douluo who had confronted Xing Douluo. However, now it seemed that they could only leave in disgrace. A beam of starlight fell and stopped beside Shadow Douluo. "Who is Xing Douluo?" he said to Shadow Douluo. "We should go back to the main hall." Shadow Douluo nodded and said to the guards around him, "Keep patrolling. If you find any suspicious people, subdue them if you can, otherwise just deal with them on the spot." The guards said in unison, "Yes." After that, Shadow Douluo and Xing Douluo quickly walked towards the main hall. At this time, in the main hall, Emperor Xingluo and Jinringsu were still confronting each other. But at this time, Jinringsu's expression was a little dazed. She murmured, This feeling is Tang Liu's illusion. He is here now, right? The Xingluo Emperor sat back on the throne and said, "The Imperial Master asked me to bring you a message." Jin Ringsu, what did he say? The Xingluo Emperor, I am very happy to see you again, and I am also very happy that you have cultivated to the 98th level. In addition, I hope everything goes well for you when you inherit the throne of the Angel God. It's just that now is still not the time for you to see me. When the time comes, all of us will gather together again, and it will just be a good time to make a final conclusion, the final conclusion. Jin Ringsu was silent for a long time, then said, "Then please tell him for me, I'm waiting for him." The Xingluo Emperor smiled slightly, "Yes. But now, Saint, please go back. I believe you have guessed the current situation outside." Jin Ringsu took a deep look at the Xingluo Emperor and said, "I lost to Tang Liu, not you." As soon as the voice fell, she disappeared in a sacred golden light. At this time, Xing Douluo and Ying Douluo also returned to the main hall and saw the Xingluo Emperor, who was in a trance. Xing Douluo saw that the Xingluo Emperor had not responded for a long time, and he couldn't help feeling a little confused, so he asked, "Your Majesty, what happened?" Hearing the voice, the Xingluo Emperor came back to his senses. He looked at the two titled Douluos and said, "It seems that the little girl is very unconvinced." Xing Douluo and Ying Douluo, the Xingluo Emperor snorted and said, "But so what? Anyway, Tang Liu is now my man." Rounding it off, I still win. Xing Douluo, Ying Douluo, Xingluo Palace, Daimyo Bei's bedroom. Tang Liu slowly opened his eyes, and the two color lines around his left and right eyes slowly faded. After being teleported to Xingluo City by Qianqin Wenqing Valley, he traveled all over Xingluo City and found all the people from the Wuhan Empire hiding in Xingluo City. After that, he immediately rushed to the Xingluo Palace, found the Xingluo Emperor, and discussed countermeasures with him, which led to the following scenes. As for the Xingluo guards who came back to life, it was naturally the effect of the soul skills attached to his demon eye. However, the reason why it felt so real to those people in the Wuhan Empire was still related to his right eye. There was a piece of external soul bone formed by the condensation of most of the soul bones of the evil eye tyrant ruler, the evil pupil. The two soul skills of the evil pupil and the demon eye combined to achieve that kind of real effect. The illusion was mixed with reality, and the reality was hidden in the illusion. Psychedelic gaze, plus the light of truth. Tang Liu stayed here from beginning to end to maintain these two soul skills, and let these two soul skills always maintain a range that was enough to cover the entire Xingluo Palace. Therefore, Tang Liu did not dare to take it lightly and kept concentrating until now. Even with the support of Hale and Wu Yan, he now felt a little tired. He was not surprised at all that the main messenger of this night attack was Jin Ringsu. The only thing that surprised him was that Jin Ringsu's cultivation had reached level 98. And it seemed that she was about to break through to level 99. Looking at him, who was also at level 20, he was still stuck at level 80 because he had to compress his soul power. When he thought of this, he felt very melancholy. So he simply lay down on Daimyo Bei's bed and had a good rest first. Now, even if Qianqin Wenqing Valley came, it would not work. No one could stop him from being a salted fish without dreams for a while. However, Tang Liu just closed his eyes and suddenly felt his left eye begin to heat up slightly. He opened his eyes in confusion. Because just now, he suddenly felt that a fantasy that he had closed for many years was inexplicably opened at this moment. What's going on? He hit the spirit to check, and then saw a shivering person trapped in a dark room. Tang Liu, Lu Qifeng. Chapter 328, Illusion Restart. Lu Qifeng was very confused now, very confused, especially confused. Because he failed to flash in front of his eyes, and then he came to this inexplicable dark room. Obviously, he was still thinking about how to escape from Tang Liu's attack just now. Lu Qifeng, oh, speaking of attack, he knew what was going on. Lu Qifeng, this must be an illusion. He then shrank his neck and looked around, but this illusion is a bit cold. He began to walk around, relying on the excellent night vision ability of the Soul Master, and began to carefully observe every corner of this dark room. This is a slightly messy room, with some scattered paper balls and bottles and jars on the ground. Then, there is a big bed against the inner wall. The style of that bed is usually found in extremely luxurious hotels. Lu Qifeng walked to something that looked like a cabinet, but there was a square glass framed on the cabinet. With a night vision ability, Lu Qifeng found that this thing seemed to be a mirror. It's completely different from the mirrors we usually see. Lu Qiufeng felt a little curious, and then his eyes were attracted by the small things placed messily on the surface of the cabinet. What is this? Lu Qiufeng picked up the metal product with a scissor handle but no scissor blade. What can this thing be used for? It's obviously not very sharp. It shouldn't be used for cutting. He put the metal product back and took a small brush. What is such a small brush used for? And, is there anyone who would use this brush in front of the mirror? Lu Qiufeng imagined the scene in his mind, shuddered, and threw the small brush back like a hot potato. When he was about to leave and look at other places in the room, his eyesight, which was not affected by the darkness, was very sharp, and he found a black shadow that looked like a human figure in the mirror in front of him. But for some reason, he couldn't see the true face of the black shadow. Lu Qiufeng turned back with some caution. However, he saw nothing. He was still the only living person in the somewhat empty room. He looked at the mirror again to confirm whether the shadow was still there. No. Nothing. Dazzled, Lu Qiufeng couldn't help but doubt his eyes. He shook his head gently, then turned around. He raised his eyes. In front of him was a pale, twisted, and rotten face. The next second, Lu Qiufeng couldn't help but scream, and before his brain could react, his body moved instinctively. He made a sword finger with his right hand, and with a light wave, Qiufeng appeared out of thin air, turning into cold light, and chopped the hideous face in front of him into pieces. The face disappeared, but Lu Qiufeng hadn't calmed down yet. He was panting, his eyes were alert and frightened, and he looked around frequently. Qiufeng was held tightly by him, and the strength he used was so great that the blue veins on the back of his hand became extremely obvious. He pointed the tip of Qiufeng's sword at the air in front of him, and his body kept spinning, fearing that the terrifying face just now would appear again. Gradually, he calmed down, and his violent heartbeat began to gradually return to normal. After calming down, he thought about it and realized that it was just like that. It was just because it happened so suddenly that he was not mentally prepared, so he was scared like this. Lu Qiufeng stood up, raised his head and let out a long breath. Lu Qiufeng, who is talking? Lu Qiufeng became nervous again and waved Qiufeng randomly. It's me, Tang Liu. Captain. Lu Qiufeng panted and stopped waving Qiufeng randomly, but still held it tightly and didn't let go. Don't be nervous, calm down. Listen to me and take a deep breath. Lu Qiufeng, inhale, then exhale slowly. Lu Qiufeng, exhale. Do you feel better? Lu Qiufeng said weakly. I'm still a little nervous. Never mind that. Don't worry, I'm using my psychedelic gaze to protect you now, and you won't be the target of Bloody Mary for the time being. Lu Qiufeng, Brady what? That's not important. You are now in an illusion that I used a long time ago to deal with some scum. Since I had the mentality of leaving no one alive at the time, entering this illusion would mean certain death. Moreover, I tried it, and since this is an illusion belonging to the past, I am in the present and cannot actively turn off this illusion or take you out of this illusion. Then what should I do? Don't worry, I can still protect you now. But you, answer me a question first. How did you get into this illusion? It was the third round of assessment in Wenking Valley, and it took me to another point in time, another time point? So he sent you there? Lu Qiufeng smiled bitterly. Probably. Let's not worry about what that guy is doing again. The most important thing is to get you out. Listen carefully, there are several very important points. First, no matter what, you must ensure absolute rationality and calmness. In this illusion, your mind and spirit will be constantly affected and become unstable. Once a gap is opened in your mental and spiritual defenses, you will become very dangerous and will be attacked at any time. Second, I found that your strength has not been affected, but you have to be careful, because the ghost hiding here is an evil soul. It is invincible. You can't kill her no matter what, but she can kill you. So you must be careful. If you die in this illusion, you will die in the same way in reality. Third, don't stay in the same place for too long, and don't lock yourself in a closed space. You can't act alone, but the other people in the team here are the main targets of the evil soul, so it's more dangerous to be with them. Why are there still 15 people in the illusion? Lu Qiufeng, because of Kyankan asking Love Valley. Okay, I know. Kyankan asking Love Valley stuffed you into another person's body, right? That's not good. Now you are also the main target of the evil soul. And, I remember that at that time, all 5 people died, and no one survived. Lu Qiufeng, Captain, is there no way I can leave here alive? What a joke. Is there anything in this world that I can do? Just believe me, your mission is not yet completed. If you just die, how bad will I be?" Although he said so, Tang Liu's mood was still a little heavy. Because time cannot be changed. In his memory, none of the 15 people survived, and none of them came back to life. Since Lu Qiufeng was sent back to that time, it means that at that time, one of the 15 people had the current Lu Qiufeng in his body. And since none of the 15 people survived, it means that the current Lu Qiufeng did not survive either. He died in that illusion. Chapter 329, Cracking Method. How can he solve this situation? After all, this is a fight against time. However, since Lu Qiufeng made the demon eye feel and cast his consciousness into this illusion in the past, it means that there is still a solution. Otherwise, the demon eye would not start automatically at this time to let him help Lu Qiufeng. And since there's this process, it means that there must be a result for Lu Qiufeng in the future. He just hasn't thought of that method yet. Although it is a different time node, Tang Liu is still the master of this illusion. Although he can't directly interfere with the past and turn off the illusion, it should be that he is not strong enough. He can still make a certain impact on the illusion. For example, protecting Lu Qiufeng from being attacked by evil souls. And since it can make a certain impact on this illusion, there must be a way to take Lu Qiufeng out. The function of psychedelic gaze is to drag a person's spirit into the illusion. After that, the damage to the person's spirit in the illusion will be synchronously mapped to his real body. But in fact, this person was not hurt, it was just that his brain felt that he was hurt, and it made this hurt reflected on his body. However, because Tang Liu had a strong enough mental power, this feedback was stronger. For example, if a person's head was chopped off in the illusion he created, then in reality, his head would fall off just like it was chopped off. So, if he could weaken the impact of this feedback, or directly let Lu Qiufeng pretend to be dead in the illusion, deceive the illusion's closing mechanism, and let the illusion close. And Lu Qiufeng, who pretended to be dead in the illusion, would also pretend to be dead in reality. And if it was just a fake death, then Lu Qiufeng still had a chance to come back to life, as long as he could use his soul power to drive his mental power and revive his own consciousness. It was easy to make Lu Qiufeng pretend to be dead, but it would be difficult to make him wake up on his own. Because once the illusion was closed, he would lose contact with Lu Qiufeng. If the two were at the same time node, he could directly teleport to Lu Qiufeng and awaken Lu Qiufeng's consciousness. But now the two are not on the same timeline at all, so this assumption is not valid. Moreover, Tang Liu also sensed it before and found that he could not contact the Hyaolin mark left in Lu Qiufeng's body at all. So, how can he make Lu Qiufeng wake himself up from the state of suspended death? It's a pity that the system is now dead, otherwise he would know the solution immediately. But in fact, he has always had a vague idea in his mind. Now, he just needs a little time to sort out this vague idea. He kept looking for the information he needed from his memories. The so-called suspended death means that the heartbeat, breathing, etc. are extremely weak, and it looks the same as real death. Even the activity of the brain will become extremely weak. However, in the state of suspended death, the subconscious is still working. Therefore, if Lu Qiufeng can use the subconscious to drive the soul power to operate, and then activate the mental power, he may be able to awaken his own consciousness and wake up. However, for ordinary soul masters, soul power and mental power are completely two unrelated energies, so it is still difficult for Lu Qiufeng to drive mental power only by the operation of soul power. Therefore, Lu Qiufeng also needs a bridge that can connect soul power and mental power. And this bridge Tang Liu fiercely hammered his palm, upper Danshan soul core, yes, the upper Danshan located between the eyebrows, the soul core condensed areas of spiritual attribute. But the soul core itself can control soul power, so as long as Lu Qiufeng can condense the spiritual soul core, then he can wake up from the state of suspended animation. With a general idea, now we only need to deal with some details. Tang Liu immediately said to Lu Qiufeng, I have thought of a way, but now we have to make some attempts. Lu Qiufeng asked, what should I do? Tang Liu, I will remove the protection for you first and test the critical value of the conditions required to turn off this illusion. In this process, you must be careful and remember the points I told you before. Also, always use your sword eyes, otherwise you are likely to encounter the illusion created by the evil soul. Lu Qiufeng said, but why did my sword eyes fail before? Tang Liu answered him, as long as your will is strong enough, your sword eyes will never fail. Now, listen to me and leave this room. The moment you walk out of this room, I will withdraw my protection from you, and then you will become the target of the evil soul's attack. But don't worry, although the protection for you has been removed, I will still tell you the location of the evil soul and the location of other people." Lu Qiufeng took a deep breath, walked to the exit of the room, and said, "Okay. What should I do after I get out?" "Tang Liu, go find that evil soul, and, when I ask you to do it, kill the other 14 people in this illusion." Lu Qiufeng, as the last silver light with terrifying cutting power slowly dissipated, the scarred 7-star plum tree finally turned into a sky full of light and disappeared, turning into Mu Jing's figure again. Mu Jing was covered with scars, and her breath seemed very weak. But her eyes were contrary to her usual state, and they looked bright and sharper and deeper than before. A trace of blood slid down the corner of her lips. Looking at the huge purple eyes, she used her mental power to convey her thoughts. "Why don't you just take my life?" It smiled lightly. It was just a spur of the moment. After that, the pair of purple eyes disappeared. Then, its voice sounded again in Mu Jing's mind. "Leave quickly before I change my mind." Mu Jing stood up tremblingly, and bowed deeply in the direction where the purple eyes disappeared. "Thank you for your guidance, Senior." "No thanks. What's your name, Senior? Do you think that a tiny human like you is worthy of knowing my name?" "Sorry, ha. It's okay to tell you. I don't have a name, but you can call me Silver Dragon King." After its last thought was transmitted to Mu Jing's spiritual see-through mental power, Mu Jing disappeared to the bottom of the lake under the golden light. After an unknown amount of time, the entire lake began to boil, and an extremely huge shadow slowly rose from under the lake. The hollow and melodious voice gradually spread throughout the secret realm. "I hope the future will not lie to me." Chapter 330, Completed Assessment. Mu Jing, congratulations on completing the second round of assessments. I believe you have gained a lot after passing the second assessment. I don't have any more assessments left for you. So, congratulations on passing all the assessments in Kyankan Asking Love Valley. As her vision gradually recovered, Mu Jing found that she was actually back in Kyankan Asking Love Valley. And as the voice ended, she finally came to her senses and realized that she had completed all the assessments. Then, she heard a sentence that surprised her even more. "Successfully pass all the assessments in Kyankan Asking Love Valley. Your cultivation will be directly raised to the bottleneck of level 80, and you will be given 2 divine soul rings." 3 golden lights fell from the sky, one of which fell on Mu Jing. After that, she felt that her cultivation was rapidly improving, and soon reached a bottleneck of level 80. The other 2 golden lights were a circle of white soul rings that were as warm as jade. These 2 God-given soul rings do not have an exact age. As long as you can endure a certain age when absorbing them, then this soul ring will be able to reach the corresponding age level. You can put them into your storage magic tool. Mu Jing was a little confused. What is a storage magic tool? "Oh, sorry, it's a storage soul guide." Although she felt a little strange, Mu Jing did not care too much and put the 2 white soul rings, which were as warm as jade, into the storage soul guide. "Now, you can choose to leave, or continue to wait for your friends here. Of course, you can also absorb a God-given soul ring here." Kyankan Questioning Love Valley is definitely a very safe place. After hearing this, Mu Jing sat down cross-legged without hesitation and said, "I choose to stay here." After that, she took out a God-given soul ring and immediately began to absorb it without saying a word. The 7-star plum branch was released, and as the 7 circles of soul rings, 2 yellow, 2 purple, 2 black and 1 red, rose one by one and hovered around her body, the God-given soul ring in front of her also slowly fell on her 7-star plum branch. Mu Jing closed her eyes, and the white God-given soul ring began to change rapidly at this time. In less than half a minute, it became yellow, representing a 100-year soul ring, and another minute later, it turned into purple, which is unique to a 1,000-year soul ring. The purple color kept deepening, and finally turned into 10,000-year level black. And the black color continued to become deeper, until a touch of red appeared on it. When it completely turned into a blood-like red, it was only half an hour since Mu Jing absorbed this God-given soul ring. And the color of this God-given soul ring continued to deepen, until a little bit of gold began to vaguely emerge on the surface. At this time, the speed at which the soul ring continued to change slowed down. However, Mu Jing still did not end the absorption of this God-given soul ring, and still persisted. An hour later, a golden pattern appeared on the red soul ring, indicating that this soul ring was no different from the soul rings produced by beasts with a cultivation level of 200,000 years. But Mu Jing still did not give up. An hour passed, and the shadow of the second golden pattern began to gradually emerge on the soul ring. Mu Jing frowned, and beads of sweat began to gather on her forehead. Obviously, she was about to reach her limit. At this moment, she always gave people the illusion that she would finish absorbing the soul ring in the next second. But another hour passed. The second golden pattern successfully emerged on the soul ring. Is the Silver Dragon King so powerful? Or is the divine soul ring I made easier to absorb? It shouldn't be. It should be more difficult for me to absorb it, the voice in Kyankan asking Love Valley muttered to itself. With a flash of golden light, Yilingling's figure also appeared in Kyankan asking Love Valley. Before she recovered from the after effects of the teleportation, the voice of Kyankan Wanking Valley said in her mind, "Congratulations, you have successfully passed all the tests. As a reward, your soul power will be increased by 6 levels and a divine soul ring." Yilingling was still in a daze when she was hit by a golden light that fell from the sky. Then, she felt that the soul power in her body began to increase rapidly until it stopped at level 78. Then, a white soul ring as warm as jade appeared in front of her. The voice also explained to her the function of the divine soul ring in front of her. So she carefully put the divine soul ring into the storage soul guide. No wonder she treasured this divine soul ring so much. Look at the people in their team. She is at least a veteran, but Mu Jing already has a soul ring of 100,000 years, and Lu Qifeng's martial soul is special. The age of the soul ring is not a problem for him at all. Maybe one day all of them will be 100,000 years old. As the captain, Tang Liu already had several 100,000-year soul rings. For her, this God-given soul ring might be the opportunity for her to obtain her first God-given soul ring. When the 6th ring was promoted to the 7th ring, she did not have the confidence to withstand the energy of a 100,000-year soul ring, but when the 7th ring was promoted to the 8th ring, she was full of confidence. Now, her soul power has reached the 78th level, and she believes that she will be able to successfully reach the 80th level bottleneck in the near future. By then, she believes that there will be no auxiliary soul master in the entire Douluo continent who will not be tempted by an auxiliary soul Douluo soul master with a 100,000-year soul ring. Naturally, like Mu Jing, she also chose to stay in Kyankan Wanking Valley and began to practice with full concentration. In the process of meditation, everything she learned in the second round of assessment was naturally integrated in her mind. It was also relying on these things learned in the assessment that she was able to enter deep meditation directly. 7 days. A week has passed since Su Yu and Su Chen absorbed the power of the immortal herbs and entered a state of deep meditation. Although Su Chen entered a state of deep meditation earlier than Su Yu, the two seemed to be attracted by some mysterious power and opened their eyes at the same time. 2 different colors of light, one gold and one black, flashed from the bottom of their eyes. They both exhaled at the same time, and after a simple breath adjustment, they stood up at the same time and looked at each other. They also saw the joy in each other's eyes. The benefits brought by the immortal herbs are naturally self-evident. Not only has their soul power been refined to be purer, but the quality of their martial soul seems to have been further improved. More importantly, the degree of fusion of the martial souls between the two seems to have undergone a certain degree of qualitative change. Before, the degree of fusion of the martial souls of the two was only about 75%, but now it should be directly over 90%. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 331 Room. What does 90% mean? You know, the most recognized martial soul fusion is the golden iron triangle, which has reached 99%. Only 1% is needed to reach 100% compatibility. Because Tang San and Tang Liu's martial soul fusion has not been fully disclosed by the Spirit Hall, the golden iron triangle is still the martial soul fusion with the highest compatibility known to most people. And martial soul fusions exceeding 90% are rare. This not only means that their martial soul fusion skills will become more powerful, but also means that it will become easier for them to use martial soul fusion skills. Moreover, they believe that this fairy grass must have a significant improvement on their own soul power, but it is only because they are stuck at the bottleneck of level 50 that it has not appeared. When they get their 5th soul ring, they may be given a big surprise. Yin came over with some fruits and handed them to Su Yu and Su Chen. She smiled and said, "There's nothing else here, just eat something, you've been practicing for 7 days." The two thanked each other first, and then Su Yu took the fruits from Yin's hand and shared them with Su Chen. At this time, Tang Hao also came over, took out a piece of bamboo from his storage soul guide, and handed it to Su Chen, saying to the two, "Use your soul power to activate it, it will lead you to where you should go next." Su Chen took the bamboo and found that it was very similar to the bamboo hanging in every corner of his room in the carriage. He looked at Su Yu beside him and found that she had the same expression. Tang Hao didn't need to tell them, they also knew who gave them this piece of wood. Tang Hao then said, "Get ready, you two will go soon. He told me that you don't have much time to practice." Su Yu and Su Chen looked at each other again, and then bowed slightly to Yin and Tang Hao. Su Yu said, "The juniors will take their leave." Tang Hao said him softly, "Hurry up and leave, don't disturb Yin and I." Su Chen poured his soul power into the piece of wood, and at the same time held Su Yu's hand. The next moment, a flash of light appeared, and the two figures disappeared in the yin-yang eyes of ice and fire. Tang Hao let out a sigh of relief, turned his head and looked at Yin beside him, and said, "This time, no one should come to disturb us for a while." Yin also looked at him, with a slight frown. However, at this moment, a blue figure fell from the sky, looked at the man and woman in the yin-yang eyes of ice and fire, and shouted in great surprise, "Dad, Mom, I'm back." Tang Hao, hard, fists hardened. Yin covered her lips and laughed softly, then walked towards the blue-haired young man. "Zio-san, you're back." Tang Hao was so angry that he crossed his arms and looked at the mother and daughter who were gathered not far away, and didn't want to talk. Lu Qiufeng slowly opened the door of the room, leaving a gap. Then, he carefully looked outside through the gap. He saw a dark place where he couldn't see his hand in front of his face. He then gradually opened the door until it was big enough for him to walk out. Suddenly, "Don't be so cautious. Didn't I tell you that I will report the location of the evil spirits and other people at any time?" Lu Qiufeng was frightened by Tang Liu's sudden voice, and said in surprise, "Captain, do you know that scaring others can kill them? Can you give me a hint before you speak next time?" Tang Liu laughed at him mercilessly, "Haha, if I have to remind you that you still have to speak, what's the difference between that and talking to me directly? It will still scare you. Besides, do I have to pat you twice before I talk to you? Isn't that more frightening?" Lu Qiufeng, okay, he was speechless. Tang Liu continued, "Also, didn't I tell you to stay calm and rational at all times? I just lifted my protection on you, and in the blink of an eye you are affected by the magnetic field of that evil soul again. Have you forgotten what I taught you in the demon forest? To me, your performance score with me is already negative." His tone was quite disappointed. Lu Qiufeng also felt a little ashamed and said, "Sorry, I will remember it next time." Tang Liu told him again, "Don't worry about going out. That evil soul is still far away from you. She is temporarily looking for other people to kill. At present, 6 of the 14 people have been killed, and there are 8 left. 5 of them are now gathered together, and the other 3 are in different places, but they are all far away from you." Lu Qiufeng was slightly relieved. He concentrated his mind, picked up Jiu Feng, strode out of the room, and then was tripped by something at the door. He fell to the ground, and one of his feet seemed to have stepped on something. Before he could scream in pain, Tang Liu's voice of warning rang in his mind, "Get out of the way." Lu Qiufeng instinctively rolled to the side for a distance, and then a black shadow quickly fell in front of him, making a loud muffled sound that spread far away. They all looked up at a place above at the same time, because there was a sound of something falling to the ground. The 5 people looked at each other, and then 5 said, "Could it be them?" 4 nodded, "It's possible, maybe they woke up too, but accidentally knocked something off." 1 looked around the 4 people and said, "Have you recovered a little?" The 4 nodded. 1 stood up, "Then let's go over and take a look." Lu Qiufeng looked closely and found that the fallen object seemed to be a statue, and the one that tripped him was a long object placed horizontally at the door of the room. He didn't know what that object was. But now, that object has rolled into the room. Lu Qiufeng quickly stood up and took a few steps back, away from the fallen statue. The statue was right next to the door. "After you tripped over the candlestick, you accidentally kicked the statue, so it fell down." Tang Liu's voice sounded in his mind, "Okay, this statue is nothing special, let's go. Don't you want to leave this illusion quickly?" Lu Qiufeng turned around and left along the corridor. Just as his figure disappeared at the corner of the corridor, the statue suddenly stood up again, contrary to common sense. Chapter 332. After that, the statue moved farther and farther away from the room, as if it had grown legs and ran away, or as if someone had lengthened the corridor. Then, the door of the room gradually closed until it closed with a creak. There was a sound of something rolling inside. On the other side, Tang Liu's voice rang out again, "Be careful, the evil soul suddenly appeared in the room you were in just now." Lu Qiufeng instantly became nervous and asked, "Did she chase us?" Tang Liu answered him, "No. She stayed in the room for a while and then left. Now, she is approaching the 5 guys who gathered together." Lu Qiufeng breathed a sigh of relief. Tang Liu despised him. "Look at how timid you are. If that evil spirit suddenly confronts you, what will you do? Scream to annoy her to death?" Lu Qiufeng smiled bitterly and said, "Captain, don't tease me. The power that affects people's hearts here is really too strong. Now, any noise will make me nervous immediately, as if it is my instinct. I can't control it." Tang Liu sighed and said, "Oh, it seems that the illusion I created at that time was too strong. Don't worry, I will see if I can help you relieve it." Lu Qiufeng nodded. "Actually, this is nothing. The important thing is to leave this illusion quickly." "Captain, how long will it take me to reach the room you mentioned?" "Well, it will take about 5 minutes. You will see a staircase in front of you soon. Just go up the stairs and go to the top floor." Lu Qiufeng responded. "Okay, then." He concentrated on getting on his way. At the same time, he was also trying to use his mental power to maintain his mind and reduce the impact of the surrounding environment on himself as much as possible. Soon, he suddenly felt a warm current suddenly spread throughout his body, and the tension in his heart disappeared without a trace at the moment of the warm current. Suddenly, he understood that Tang Liu was helping him. Lu Qiufeng suppressed his joy and became more confident to leave this illusion. Soon, a staircase appeared in his field of vision. He quickly walked into it, moving swiftly and quickly up the stairs without making any sound. A moment later, he came to the top floor. Lu Qiufeng asked in his mind, "Where should I go next?" Tang Liu said, "There is a door on the right, 10 meters away. It is the closest to you in the passage to the main room." Lu Qiufeng immediately turned right and found a wooden door 10 meters away. He turned the doorknob and opened the door. The moment the door opened, a chill that went straight to the soul came out. However, Lu Qiufeng had the help of the warm current in his body, so he was not affected much by the cold current. Inside the door was a narrow, dark passage. At the end of this passage should be the most important room he was going to. Lu Qiufeng walked in without any hesitation. When he entered the dark passage, his sensitive hearing caught several very creepy screams. Before he could ask any questions, Tang Liu answered him. "Those 5 people encountered the evil spirit in the room you were in before. 4 of them managed to escape, and the one who didn't escape is now dead. By the way, you should also write down their numbers. I have a feeling that this should be very important." Lu Qiufeng, numbers, Tang Liu, 15 people, numbered 1 to 15. Just now it was 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. 5 people encountered the evil spirit, and 2, 3, 4, and 5 escaped, and 1 died. The situation now is that 3 is also alone, and it is estimated that the next target of the evil spirit is him. 2, 4, and 5 are still together, and they should not be targeted by the evil spirit for the time being. In addition, the only ones who are still alive are 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 11, 14, and 15. Lu Qiufeng asked, "Then what is my number?" "You are 15, the last one." "Yes. It means you are the one most likely to escape. Perhaps, Kyankan Wonking Valley stuffed you into the body of 15, which has already reminded me of something." "And, do you know what I just found when I thought of the number?" Lu Qiufeng asked curiously. "What?" Tang Liu smiled. His tone sounded like he was sure of victory. "There are a total of 15 key rooms here. Just like the room you are about to arrive at now, and the room you have been in before." "You said, 15 people, 15 rooms? What does this mean?" Lu Qiufeng's eyes lit up. "This may mean that these 15 rooms are prepared for 15 people." "That's right. So, you may be busy later. When you rush to the most important room, don't act rashly. I will activate protection for you." Lu Qiufeng asked puzzledly, "Did something happen?" Tang Liu smiled. "I have to deal with the matters of our 2 team members. We haven't seen each other for 4 years. Our cultivation has improved rapidly, and we have obtained a lot of spirit bones and spirit rings. We can't treat them badly." Lu Qiufang also knew that Tang Liu was talking about Su Yu and Su Chen, so he said, "Okay, Captain, come back soon. I still feel scared staying here alone." "Tang Liu, don't worry, I can still talk to you. Just call me if there is any emergency." Green light flashed, and Tang Liu's consciousness left the illusion and returned to his body. After that voice rang in his mind. "You have completed the second round of assessment. As a reward, I will give you a few God-given spirit rings to play with." Several white jade-like spirit rings appeared in front of Tang Liu. Tang Liu looked at the God-given soul rings that look very similar to the 10-year soul rings, and said, "Why is this God-given soul ring different from the description in the original book?" "Because these God-given soul rings are all produced by me," Tang Liu said with interest. "So, you are also a god?" the voice sounded. "Yes." Tang Liu was a little surprised. "You revealed your identity to me so easily." The voice did not answer his question, but said, "Okay, hurry up and deal with your things, and then start the third round of assessment. If you don't hurry up, I won't be able to control the Kyankan questioning valley." Tang Liu tentatively, "What if I have to delay time? Then I will force you to participate in the third round of assessment, and you will not be able to teleport to Su Yu and Su Chen, and you will no longer be able to contact Lu Qiufang in the past." Okay, you are so cruel." Tang Liu rolled his eyes, sat up from Daimyo Bei's bed, and then used Heolin to teleport and left Xingluo City. Chapter 333, Yin-Yang Soul Refining Abyss. No matter which world you are in, there are always some places that humans have not fully explored. This is true even in Douluo continent. Su Yu and Su Chen slowly emerged from a burst of blue light. They first observed their surroundings vigilantly to confirm whether there was any danger. However, although the surroundings were very quiet, it was still a peaceful scene. At this time, they began to carefully look at the surrounding illusion. They were in a grassland. The grassland was full of herbs that were higher than the knees. Occasionally, a few trees could be seen scattered throughout the grassland. And right in front of the two was a hill that was broken in the middle. Perhaps because of the angle of the sun now, there was no sunlight in it, and it was dim and a little palpitating. Just when the two were a little confused, a familiar voice suddenly came from the front. "Come on, I'll wait for you here." Su Yu and Su Chen looked at each other with surprise in their eyes, and released their martial arts spirits and ran towards the broken hill in front of them at a high speed. As the hill continued to grow larger in their field of vision, the crack also began to gradually grow larger. When the two really came to the front of the hill, they found that the canyon formed by the crack was hundreds of meters wide. However, their attention was not on the huge canyon at this time, but on the blue-haired young man standing in front of the canyon. The blue-haired young man smiled and greeted the two. "Long time no see." Su Yu and Su Chen walked over and stood 1 meter in front of the blue-haired young man. They said in unison, "Captain, we have successfully completed the task you assigned to us." The blue-haired young man was Tang Liu. He smiled and nodded, and said, "I know, although I am not with you, I think you know it." He pointed to the sky and continued, "I have been watching you all the time." Finally, he said seriously, "Thank you for your hard work." Somehow, Su Yu and Su Chen suddenly felt tears welling up in their eyes. Thinking of the suffering they had endured in the past few years, countless grievances suddenly surged in their hearts. Although Su Yu and Su Chen are about the same age as Tang Liu had been with them in another way during the days when they were imprisoned by Davis, so there was some different feeling between them. Of course, if you insist on saying that it was the father who is relieved to see his two children finally mature, I can't help it. Manually funny. Tang Liu took out 6 God-given soul rings from the storage instrument, divided them equally between the two, and told them the function of these God-given soul rings. "Tang Liu, don't rush to absorb them now. Wait until you complete your last assessment. That will be the best time for you to absorb these God-given soul rings." Su Yu couldn't help but ask, "Captain, why are you so anxious for us to complete the final assessment? For 4 years, our cultivation has been stuck at the bottleneck of level 50. Can't we break through level 50 first and then complete the assessment? In this way, even if we encounter danger inside, we will be able to deal with it better." Tang Liu shook his head and said, "Only after you complete this assessment can the effect of the God-given soul rings be maximized. Moreover, you don't have much time. To be precise, all of us will soon be out of time. This era will come to an end soon. Once that time comes, we must withdraw from the stage of history." Su Yu and Su Chen didn't quite understand what he was saying, but they still obeyed Tang Liu's arrangements. Su Chen, then what is this assessment? Tang Liu made way and looked at the dim canyon behind him. It's this, the yin-yang soul refining abyss, which ranks second among the 3 treasure basins. The so-called treasure basin refers to a blessed land created by the fortune of heaven and earth. In this blessed land, all kinds of natural treasures are produced, or all kinds of opportunities and adventures are hidden. It is a place that is hard to come by in 1,000 years. And the yin-yang eyes of ice and fire are the blessed lands that are rich in natural treasures and various fairy herbs among the 3 treasure basins. Then what are the first and second? The first one is called Kyankan Questioning Valley, and the second is Yin-Yang Soul Refining Abyss. The characteristic of yin-yang eyes of ice and fire is the red and blue pool of water in your dream. If you encounter it in the future, remember not to stay there for too long. Because the elemental energy of heaven and earth there is extremely violent, and the 2 attributes of ice and fire conflict with each other. Staying in that environment for a long time will cause people to explode and die. If one day you fall into a valley that is half bright and half dark, then this is the yin-yang soul refining abyss. If you are in the yin-yang soul refining abyss, you must walk along the dividing line between light and darkness as quickly as possible, and make sure to cross the dividing line every half an hour, so that you have a chance to get out. Moreover, once you start walking, you cannot stay in any place for more than a quarter of an hour. At the same time, once you choose a direction, you must never turn back, even if you have been walking for a long time and have not gotten out. Your test is to successfully walk out of this yin-yang soul refining abyss. Once you leave it, you can immediately start absorbing your spirit rings. Su Yu and Su Chen were a little confused. Is it that simple? Tang Liu shook his head. Don't underestimate the yin-yang soul refining abyss. If you don't know the rules, you will die in it, and even I can't save you. Tang Liu said this just to scare Su Yu and Su Chen. Although he didn't know whether his hail and teleportation would still work for Su Yu and Su Chen after they entered the yin-yang soul refining abyss, he still had a way to take them away when they were in danger. However, if that time really came, it would mean that Su Yu and Su Chen were unqualified, and Tang Liu could only choose to give up on them and leave them in this era. However, Tang Liu also believed that his judgment of people would not be wrong. A place like the yin-yang soul refining abyss, which had a stereotype clearance rule, should not be a problem for Su Yu and Su Chen. After that, Tang Liu told Su Yu and Su Chen the method of passing the yin-yang soul refining abyss that he had heard from Tang San, and then said to them, "Do you know that I have not allowed you to obtain your 5th soul ring for the past 4 years?" Su Yu and Su Chen shook their heads. Tang Liu, in addition to wanting to give you these God-given soul rings, it is also because of the immortal grass you took. Similarly, there is also the reason for the yin-yang soul refining abyss. Quotation mark. Chapter 334, Firstborn. He paused and continued, for soul masters, when your cultivation is lower, you can encounter more opportunities, which will help you in your future cultivation, which is much more beneficial than when you need the benefits of that opportunity. Because, the lower your cultivation is, the stronger your plasticity is. When your cultivation exceeds that of a soul emperor, your upper limit has basically been determined. What I have to do is to continuously increase your upper limit before it is finalized. The immortal herbs you took are the yin-yang soul refining abyss and the God-given soul rings. Just like the Shrek 7 devils, you should all know them. Their original talents were actually similar to yours before, and they could only cultivate to become soul lords at around the age of 17. But not long after they all entered the soul master level, because they took the same level of natural treasures as the immortal herbs you just took not long ago, their soul power, talents, and the upper limit they can reach in the future have all been rapidly improved. It is precisely because of this that now, they have almost all become soul Douluos. Tang Liu smiled at this time. Think about it, how old are they now? Are they about the same age as you? Su Yu and Su Chen nodded at the same time. Tang Liu sighed and said, yes, they are about the same age as you, but they have already reached the level of soul Douluo, or even title Douluo. Title Douluo in your 20s, don't you want to become such a favored child of heaven? Although you take immortal herbs more often than them, you still take them before the 5th ring, which means that your upper limit is far from being finalized and there is still enough room for improvement. Even though you are already in your 20s now, I ask you, have you ever stopped practicing in the past few years? Su Yu and Su Chen answered in unison, no. Tang Liu's lips curled. That's right. You only need to remember one thing, not attaching soul rings for the time being does not mean that your soul power will stop growing. Okay, now, go and start your final assessment. When you finish the assessment, I will come back to pick you up. Su Yu and Su Chen nodded, yes. Then, the two walked towards the huge canyon, and soon, they disappeared into the darkness. Tang Liu stared at the canyon in front of him, the place where Su Yu and Su Chen disappeared last, and said to himself, 4 years of accumulation, 2 immortal products, and a yin-yang soul refining abyss. I don't believe that this is not as good as half of the body's ultimate ice world energy. A blue light flashed, and he disappeared in front of the canyon. Here is an endless sea. However, compared with the ordinary ocean, the wind here is cold and the sea is full of ice caps and glaciers. A golden light fell from the sky at this time, and then a figure walked out of the golden light. It was Tang Liu. He looked at the surrounding scene and soon knew where he was now. He said, "Is my third round of assessment here? What is it? Is it to pull the sea princess out and beat her up?" After waiting for a long time, he finally got a response. "Actually, you don't have any third round of assessment. Or, your third round of assessment was just talking to me." Tang Liu paused. "Are you kidding me? If so, I don't have time to play with you. Now, I still have to rescue Lu Qiufang from the illusion, and I don't know how long it will take. But I don't have much time left. Now, my brother should have successfully resurrected my mother, which also means that the final battle of gods is about to begin. And I am still busy with the 6th compression of soul power, and I don't know when I can succeed. Without completely compressing the soul power for the 6th time, I dare not rashly condense the 8th soul ring of Haolan's spell. If I can't condense the 8th soul ring, I can't break through the soul Douluo and continue to practice. Others have reached the level of title Douluo or even God level, and I am still wandering at the soul saint level. What if I can't beat them?" Tang Liu was really anxious this time. After all, there was really not much time left. The voice laughed. "It seems that in order for you to have a good talk with me, I have to do you a favor first." As soon as the voice fell, a mysterious feeling suddenly lingered in Tang Liu's heart. Suddenly, he stopped talking. Then, his eyes were naturally attracted to the sky, and the blue-black light that belonged to the Haolan magic gradually lit up in his eyes. At this moment, Tang Liu felt that his sight was constantly rising, gradually crossing the sky, and coming to the dark universe, and it was still climbing. The feeling of transcending everything that he had felt in the secret room of Haoshan Castle appeared again. Until, he seemed to have reached the end of the universe. Until he saw the door that he wanted to step into very much. Until, he clearly saw a colorless light flying out of the door. When the colorless light appeared, Tang Liu immediately felt the throbbing of his third martial soul, the Haolan magic. It was a kind of excitement like a child seeing his father. He was right. The existence of that voice is higher than the level of Haolan's magic. Tang Liu had not yet completely recovered from his shock, and temporarily did not notice that his consciousness had gradually returned with the colorless light. After that, the colorless light, along with his consciousness, reintegrated into his body. And when the colorless light merged into his body, he was also surprised to find that his soul began to throb inexplicably. Just like the excitement of a child seeing his father. Tang Liu, he was extremely confused. This, the voice sounded, don't get me wrong, I have nothing to do with you. After all, my last name is Zhang, and I'm not much older than you. As for why you have that feeling, let me tell you this, when I talk to you in this state, all the existences on our side see me as if they see their father. This Haolan magic, and you yourself are also one of the existences on our side, so naturally, you will have that feeling, Tang Liu asked with a trembling voice, not knowing whether it was because his soul was too excited now. "Who are you?" the voice said calmly. "You can call me, the firstborn, the person who existed at the beginning of the origin of all things." The author only said it, and the friends in the group should know. That book is not finished, and it will be updated later. If the editor does not release the ban for me, it is likely to start the second part. This firstborn is a character who will appear in the later part of that book. The specific person may be guessed by the friends who have read it. That's it, good night. Chapter 335, The 6th Compression of Soul Power. So, I was actually sent here by you, right? The book Haolan Magic Collection on my bed in the dormitory was also put there by you, right? Firstborn, you can think so. Tang Liu opened his mouth slightly, his lips trembling slightly, wanting to say something, but it seemed to be choked in his throat. In the end, he could only say weakly, but hysterically, "Why? Before I tell you the reason, why don't you take a look at your soul power first?" The firstborn changed the subject and said, Hearing this, Tang Liu felt a little helpless, but he chose to calm himself down and concentrate on his inner gaze. Then he was stunned, because he found that his soul power, at some point, had completed the 6th compression. He quickly thought of the colorless light, so he said, "Is this the help you mentioned? No need to thank me, Tang Liu. Since you can easily make my soul power complete the 6th compression, why not just let me reach the maximum level directly? Why bother me so much?" The firstborn smiled. "This is exactly why I sent you here. The so-called purpose is to let me practice it myself. After all, that can be your own thing." Tang Liu snorted. "Sending me here without my consent? Do you still have a conscience? But what if you can have a reasonable, new life after you go back because of this time travel?" The firstborn's tone was slightly smiling, but it was like an attractive contract that a devil easily threw out. Tang Liu admitted that he couldn't refuse. He said, "I won't ask you anything. Since you have helped me complete the 6th compression of soul power in advance, I will start to condense the 8th soul ring of Haolan's spell. No hurry. Why don't you help Lu Qiufang escape from the illusion first, and familiarize yourself with the process of condensing the soul core? Moreover, you don't have to worry that his condensation of the soul core will change the rules of this world. I sent him into the body of a person in the past, which means that the body has become the best thing to conceal the secrets of heaven." Tang Liu was stunned for a moment, and then he understood what he meant. He immediately sat cross-legged in the air and entered the illusion in the past with the help of the demon eye. The dark passage soon had only the end. Lu Qiufang opened the door at the end of the passage. With a creak, the scene behind the door appeared in his eyes. It was still a room, but the items in this room were arranged neatly, which formed a clear contrast with a mess in the room he was in before. If it seemed that someone was experiencing a life and death struggle in the previous room, then this room must be filled with peace. Perhaps, not long ago, the fireplace was burning with a not so strong but warm flame. And on this soft big bed, there was a person who was enjoying his dream. But now, there was only a weird and cold feeling here. Lu Qiufang walked into this most critical room, closed the door behind him, and began to observe the room carefully. Tang Liu said that he wanted to try a method here. If it succeeded, he could be sent out of this illusion. Although he didn't know what Tang Liu's method was, it didn't prevent Lu Qiufang from trying to find some useful clues in this room. He first went to the cabinet with a mirror and looked at it. He was a little surprised that there was such a cabinet in this room. Perhaps this kind of cabinet was often used by the original owner of this building. Then he opened a cabinet above and found a book inside. He took the book out, first looked at the cover, and then opened it and started reading from the first page. However, he found helplessly that he didn't recognize the words written in the book at all. In this way, he didn't know what was written in the book. But he didn't give up, and continued to flip through the pages. He kept flipping through the last page of the book, and finally saw something he recognized. A 5-pointed star drawn upside down. In order to avoid missing anything, he kept flipping through the book to the last page, and finally confirmed that there was nothing useful in the book. Of course, maybe there were some key things recorded in the book, but he couldn't understand them. He put the book back to its original place, and continued to observe around the room. Naturally, he walked towards another door in the room at the first time. When he opened it, there was a dark corridor outside, just like the passage he had entered this room before. It seems that this door is also the entrance to this room. It is also the only 2 exits in this room. Thinking of the word exit, Lu Qiufang suddenly found that there were no windows in this room. And not only this room, but also the room he stayed in before. After staying in this building for so long, the only window he saw was the one located not far away from the door diagonally opposite after coming out of the previous room. However, the window was frosted, so you couldn't see the outside at all, but some light could barely get through. Lu Qiufang then closed the door and continued to observe around the room. This time, he came to a floor-length mirror, and then, in front of the mirror, he found a 5-pointed star that seemed to be carved with blood. On the 5 sharp corners of the 5-pointed star, there were candles that had been extinguished for a long time and had different degrees of melting. When he saw the 5-pointed star, Lu Qiufang immediately thought of the inverted 5-pointed star he saw in the book. So he was sure that there must be something very important written in the book, but it was a pity that he couldn't understand it. Since he knew he couldn't understand it, Lu Qiufang didn't take the book again. After continuing to observe the 5-pointed star drawn on the ground in front of the mirror, he went somewhere else to continue looking for clues. Soon, he turned the room over, but didn't find anything that might be useful. At this moment, he heard Tang Liu's voice again. "I'm back." Lu Qiufeng was not scared this time. He asked, "Have the issues with Su Yu and Su Chen been resolved, Tang Liu?" "Well, now all that's left is to resolve this illusion." Lu Qiufeng exhaled lightly. "What should I do? Have you found the pentagram in this room?" Lu Qiufeng walked to the mirror and said, "Is this it?" Tang Liu said and then said, "Now light the 5 candles." Chapter 336 The Line Between Life and Death. Lu Qiufeng raised his hand and waved it, and the flame suddenly burned on the sword of Qiufeng. He then controlled Qiufeng to light the 5 candles. After lighting the 5 candles, Lu Qiufeng retracted Qiufeng and looked at the mirror in front of him. With the light emitted by the candles, the darkness in the room became much lighter, and the vision became clearer. However, in the flickering candlelight, the blood-colored 5-pointed star seemed to emit a bit of weirdness at this time. Similarly, in the mirror, Lu Qiufeng looked at his own reflection and felt very weird. He always felt that the person in the mirror was not him. "Tang Liu, don't think about it. You are not controlling your own body now. The person in the mirror is naturally another person." Lu Qiufeng, he coughed twice to cover up his embarrassment, and once again told himself to calm down in his heart, and then said, "What should I do next? Stand in the middle of the 5-pointed star?" Lu Qiufeng did it. After standing inside, he was now facing the mirror. From this angle, the figure in the mirror became even more eerie, and there was always an indescribable sense of dead silence. Tang Liu also said at this time, "I will remove the protection from you later, and at this time you should immediately close your eyes and recite Bloody Mary 3 times in a row. After that, no matter what happens, you should not open your eyes, understand?" Lu Qiufeng's heart subconsciously tightened, and he nodded very seriously. "Tang Liu, okay, then I will start." The moment Tang Liu's voice fell, Lu Qiufeng immediately closed his eyes and quickly recited, "Bloody Mary, Bloody Mary, Bloody Mary." After his voice disappeared, the whole room became extremely quiet in an instant because of the contrast. But after reciting it 3 times, Lu Qiufeng didn't feel anything special. Moreover, in his perception, there seemed to be no change in the surroundings, and it was the same as before. A very strange coldness that seemed to penetrate the soul. Lu Qiufeng was suddenly shocked. Because at this time he found that his body was rapidly getting cold, and he couldn't help shivering. At this time, he suddenly found that the candlelight in front of him had also disappeared. This meant that the surroundings were once again in darkness. So, who blew out the candle? His body's senses clearly told him that there was no wind just now. Could it be a person? But he didn't hear any footsteps. So Lu Qiufeng couldn't help but think of that extremely terrifying face. He subconsciously wanted to open his eyes to avoid thinking about that face again. But the next moment, he thought of Tang Liu's advice to him not to open his eyes no matter what. Lu Qiufeng could only resist the urge to open his eyes and close his eyes tighter. At the same time, he also remembered what Tang Liu had told him before, and quickly calmed himself down and stopped thinking about it. At this time, although he closed his eyes, he subconsciously activated the sword eye. And as the sword eye was activated, he seemed to see the situation outside the illusion. Although it was only a short moment, he was still sure that it was the scene outside the illusion. This discovery made him extremely happy, and he immediately forgot about the face and replaced it with a brand new idea. Maybe, he could even break out of this illusion by his own strength. Of course, if Lu Qiufeng could open his eyes and look at the scene outside now, he would not think so. Because in the mirror in front of him, a pair of extremely pale hands slowly stretched out and went straight to his neck. I don't know when, the mirror has become pitch black, swallowing all the light like a bottomless abyss. And in such an abyss, such a pair of hands slowly stretched out. And if you look carefully, you can see that above those hands, there is a pair of scarlet eyes. These eyes stared at Lu Qiufeng, as if waiting for him to open his eyes and meet their eyes. But it is obvious that Lu Qiufeng, who has Tang Liu's instructions, cannot open his eyes on his own. Then, the hands moved much faster. Almost in the blink of an eye, they landed on Lu Qiufeng's neck and slowly tightened. In Lu Qiufeng's senses, it was as if something extremely cold was suddenly placed on his neck. His first reaction was not to dodge or attack, but to think, what is actually lower than my current body temperature? So, he just shuddered instinctively and had no other reaction. But the hands would not be discouraged by his lack of reaction, or have other reactions. They just clenched their hands gradually like a program. Finally, Lu Qiufeng began to feel suffocated. His trachea was severely compressed, and breathing became extremely difficult. Before Tang Liu spoke, he did not dare to act rashly, so he could only choose to passively bear it. I don't know how long it took. Lu Qiufeng began to feel that his body became somewhat out of control, and he couldn't help wanting to fall down. But he was restricted by some kind of force and couldn't really fall down. Then, his consciousness gradually blurred, and countless memories began to flash before his eyes. At this time, the hands outside were almost completely squeezing Lu Qiufeng's neck. Life was rapidly draining from Lu Qiufeng's body, and the hands showed no sign of stopping, because this was the nature of the evil spirit. Once it was summoned, unless it was extremely lucky, it would only turn into one of the blood on her red dress. Finally, Lu Qiufeng's head tilted to one side, which meant that his life ended. But at this moment, the hands that stretched out from the mirror suddenly disappeared, very abruptly, as if it had never appeared. Moreover, the darkness in the mirror also disappeared without a trace, becoming the appearance of a normal mirror in a lightless room, instead of being as dark as a bottomless abyss. Lu Qiufeng's body completely softened to the ground at this time, and knocked over several candles. Time passed gradually, and Lu Qiufeng, who should have been dead, moved his fingertips slightly at this time. Then, suddenly, just like a drowning man suddenly breathing fresh air, he opened his eyes and took a deep breath until his lungs were full. At the moment he opened his eyes, his whole body twitched violently, as if his brain was taking over the control of his body again. After lying on the ground and taking a few deep breaths, he barely recovered some strength, supported his body, and slowly leaned against the wall next to him. He was still panting at this time, and his heart, which had stopped for a while, was beating violently at a speed that had never been seen before, allowing the blood in his body to resume normal circulation. He finally returned to his normal state when he was alive. Tang Liu, how does it feel? Lu Qiufeng currently had no extra strength to speak, so he could only convey his thoughts in his mind. Absolutely. Absolutely, don't do it a second time. Tang Liu smiled. That's unfortunate. If you want to leave this illusion, you have to do it again. No offense. Bad luck, go away. Pray, pray, pray. Chapter 337 Soul Core. What else could Lu Qiufeng say? In order to get out of this illusion, he could only accept this reality. So he asked, Captain, did your experiment succeed? Tang Liu answered him, of course. Now, whether you can get out of here depends on whether you can successfully condense the soul core. What exactly is a soul core? The product of the next era. Lu Qiufeng, then how should I condense a soul core? Tang Liu thought for a while and said to him, it's okay to let you try it now. Do as I say, concentrate your mind and look inward, and put your consciousness into the lower danshan. Lu Qiufeng immediately sat cross-legged and, as Tang Liu said, concentrated his mind and looked inward, and put his consciousness into the lower danshan. The lower danshan, or danshan acupoint, is the main place for soul masters to store soul power. It is the starting point for soul power to flow through the meridians of the whole body, and it is also the end point of all soul power after running in the body for a week. When a soul master is not meditating and practicing, all the soul power in the body will be gathered in the lower danshan, available to the soul master at any time. Now, separate a small strand of soul power. Lu Qiufeng did as he was told and separated a strand of soul power from his danshan. Let it rotate, and while controlling it to rotate, compress it until it can no longer be compressed, then add the second strand of soul power. Lu Qiufeng did as he was told and added the second strand of soul power 3 minutes later. Now continue to repeat this process until it starts to actively absorb your soul power, then control it to stop rotating and turn it into your soul power again. Lu Qiufeng did not answer, but focused on controlling the soul power compression vortex that had become the size of a broad bean. Half an hour later, the soul power vortex had basically reached the size of a baby's fist. At this time, it had begun to actively absorb the soul power in Lu Qiufeng's danshan, so Lu Qiufeng began to try to stop the soul power vortex from rotating. However, he found that this process was somewhat difficult, because a considerable obstruction force came out of the soul power vortex to prevent him from stopping it from rotating. But fortunately, this obstruction was still within his control. Therefore, the soul power vortex was under his control, and the rotation speed gradually slowed down, and finally stopped completely, turning into strands of soul power and returning to the soul power in his danshan. Are you familiar with the process of condensing the soul core now? Lu Qiufeng withdrew his consciousness from his danshan, nodded, and said, I'm basically familiar with it. Okay, let's make some final preparations now. I'm going to start to break this illusion and take you out. Lu Qiufang stood up excitedly and said, I can't wait to get out. Tell me what to do. Your current total soul power is far from enough to successfully condense a soul core, so we have to get some external support for you. Can't I condense that soul core with my soul saint cultivation? Tang Liu smiled and said, you have to know that it's almost the end of an era, and the cultivation of a soul saint is nothing at all. If you want to survive in this last time, the minimum cultivation requirement is level 98. Lu Qiufang couldn't help but smack his lips. But I always feel that there's still early. That's because you think that cultivation is linked to time. Try to put it in a different way. Most soul masters of your age are only soul kings or soul emperors, but you are already a soul sage. So, when ordinary soul master's cultivation reaches soul sage, soul Douluo, or even title Douluo, what will your cultivation be? You think it's still early because you still classify yourself as an ordinary soul master. But I hope you remember one thing, when you step into my carriage, you are no longer a so-called ordinary soul master, but a child of destiny. Yin-Yang Soul Refining Abyss. Su Yu and Su Chen had already walked into the canyon for half an hour, but they still hadn't seen the half-bright, half-dark scene that Tang Liu had said. But the two of them still kept in mind the request that Tang Liu had told them, that they must not look back, and that they must cross the dividing line every half an hour. However, since they didn't know where the dividing line was, they just used the center of the canyon as the dividing line, and walked to the other side every half an hour and continued to move forward. In this way, another hour passed, and they also crossed the center line twice. And it was at this time that the sun showed a corner in the sky above the canyon. The originally dark canyon was suddenly filled with warm sunlight. However, due to the angle of incidence, the sunlight did not illuminate the entire canyon, but only illuminated half of it. So, in the eyes of Su Yu and Su Chen, the canyon they were in, at this moment, became half bright and half dark. It was at this moment that they realized that they had entered the real yin-yang soul refining abyss. Of course, the reason they were so sure was not only because the canyon suddenly became half light and half dark, but also because the light and dark elements suddenly became several times denser and more active. I don't know if it was a coincidence or something else, but at this moment, Su Yu stood on the side full of light, while Su Chen was on the side that was still dark. The suddenly dense and active light and dark elements made their own martial arts spirits extremely excited, and they released them on their own. Their respective soul rings also surrounded them. The two looked at each other, and then simultaneously stepped forward because of the change in the environment. The legs stopped and continued to walk forward. All the way forward, they themselves continued to bear the baptism of light or dark elements. In this process, they could clearly feel that their martial arts spirits were becoming purer and stronger, and the soul power in their bodies was constantly being purified, thus becoming more condensed. Such changes almost intoxicated them, making them forget for a moment that they needed to cross the dividing line every half an hour. When they found that their bodies were about to burst due to the pain caused by the vast amount of light or dark elements, they just reacted and remembered that they needed to switch positions. So, the two of them quickly crossed the dividing line, so that Su Yu in the light entered the darkness of the canyon, while Su Chen in the darkness was exposed to the light. The elemental energy that was completely opposite to the two martial spirits just neutralized the excess light and dark elements in their bodies, allowing their bodies to return to normal. The author finally finished his work today and will resume updating tomorrow. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 338 Soul Refining. However, this does not mean that the elemental energies they had absorbed before were also neutralized. Therefore, if they continue to walk like this, their cultivation will surely advance by leaps and bounds. Moreover, since the two of them can perform martial soul fusion skills, walking in the elemental energies with completely opposite martial soul attributes will not only not have a bad impact on them, but will also invisibly improve the affinity of the two martial souls to the corresponding elemental energies, which can also be regarded as being able to subtly improve the compatibility of the two martial souls. At the same time, the experience just now also warned them that they must always concentrate and pay attention to the time they stay in two places, otherwise, they will either be blown up by the same elemental energy, or the soul power in their bodies will conflict with the opposite elemental energy and explode. They don't think they can have the good luck just now and wake up when an accident is about to happen. They have also understood yin-yang soul refining abyss. The most important thing may be the two words soul refining. In this yin-yang soul refining abyss, the most important test should be the tempering of their willpower. However, I don't know in what aspects this yin-yang soul refining abyss will exercise their willpower. Is it just to confuse their minds by making them stronger? Now, besides you, only 2, 4, 7, and 14 are still alive. It's unknown how long it will take for the evil spirit to deal with them one by one, so you have to deal with them yourself. The only thing you need to remember is not to reveal your spirit ring when you take action. Of course, try not to use Jiu Feng if you can. And, before killing them, you can imitate the evil spirit's method to scare them, or directly kill them with the evil spirit's method. That would be even better. Finally, you have to make sure that the bodies of the 14 people are lying in the bathtubs of the 14 corresponding rooms, and make sure their faces are facing the mirror, and their eyes must be open. You need to pay attention that after you kill the last person except you, the evil spirit will appear directly beside you because you are the only target left to kill. But you don't need to worry, because my power will still protect you from being hurt, but you don't have to be affected by the evil spirit. Also, from the moment you decide to kill them until you succeed in killing them, I cannot protect you during this period, so you must be extremely careful, because during this period, the evil spirits may attack you at any time. And if you are affected by the evil spirits and fail to kill your target immediately, I cannot immediately use my authority to protect you. You must be 10 meters away from your target before my protection can take effect. And during this period, I don't need to tell you what may happen, right? Of course, I will still keep in touch with you at all times. When the evil spirit is near you and is about to attack you, I will remind you in time. Okay, that's all I have to say. Now act quickly. I wish you good luck. Now, the closest to you is Qi. He is on the 3rd floor. I will lead you to him, and then it depends on you. Yin-yang eyes of ice and fire. Tang San is using the highest mystery of the blue-silver domain. Sea embraces 100 rivers. Using the energy of the blue-silver grass in the entire sunset forest, plus the endless light of the sea god, to revive Yin. Of course, this is not only to restore Yin's cultivation of 100,000 years, but also to restore Yin to the mature stage after transformation. However, Tang San found that no matter how he infused the power of the blue-silver grass into Yin could not break through the 100,000-year barrier. Yin also spoke softly at this time. Child, don't try again. Tang San shook his head and said, no, I must take advantage of now to restore your cultivation, otherwise I don't know if there will be a chance later. Yin smiled. Silly child, we still have a long time in the future, how can there be no chance? Tang San did not speak, hiding the bitterness at the corner of his mouth. He then said, now your cultivation can't break through a 100,000 years, maybe because you are still missing some key factor. And this so-called key factor is most likely Xiao Liu. Yin smiled and shook her head, saying, actually, it's good for us now. Her eyes looked at Tang Hao. Tang Hao looked at the faint pleading in his wife's eyes, and for some reason, his heart subconsciously tightened. He said, okay, Xiao-san, your mother is right. It's good like this now. Stop. Hearing this, Tang San had to stop. He gritted his teeth and said, I'll find a way, perhaps, when he truly inherits the throne of the sea god, all this will no longer be a problem. Su Chen and Su Yu have been walking in the yin-yang soul refining abyss for more than an hour. But the surrounding scene is too rich in light and dark elements, so it seems that there is no big change at all, so it always gives the two people a feeling that they have been standing still. Of course, they also know that it is just their illusion. But is the vague call behind them also an illusion? The two remembered Tang Liu's warning and must not look back. It's just that moving in this single environment for a long time has made their spirits a little dazed. It's not that they haven't stopped to rest, but because they can't stay in the same place for more than a quarter of an hour, and they don't know how big the specific scope of this same place is, so the time their rest is very few, and they can't achieve the effect of rest at all. At the same time, in such an environment, they did not have any convenient timekeeping method. They could only rely on their own mental counting and their intuition to judge whether they had walked on one side of the dividing line for half an hour. Fortunately, the experience of being hunted by the spirit hall in those years also made them develop a strong sensitivity to time, so at the beginning, they seemed to be at ease. But the highly tense state of mind continued like this, and they were still a little overwhelmed after all. So at this time, the illusions produced in the yin-yang soul refining abyss began to make them a little confused about reality. I don't know how many times Suyu almost looked back. It was because of that faint calling voice that sounded very much like Tang Liu. Chapter 339, Ruthless Heart. But the remaining thoughts in her mind stopped her behavior. No matter what, she must not turn back. Compared with Suyu, Su Chen's condition seemed to be better. Because he had always remembered Tang Liu's instructions, the vague call had little effect on him. Therefore, yin-yang soul refining abyss quickly changed its way to deal with him. Su Chen found that a figure gradually appeared in front of him. When the figure became clear, he found that the figure was Shadow Douluo. Shadow Douluo looked at him and said, "Child, if you are tired, stop and rest." This sentence evoked his memories. Since he awakened his martial soul at the age of 6, he began to practice very hard. At that time, Shadow Douluo often said this to him. "If you are tired, stop and rest," but he never heard it. Because he knew that he could not stop. Because he was the descendant of Xingluo's worshipper. Because he had been carrying the mission of protecting Xingluo since he was born. And the Xingluo Empire never kept waste. Even if he was born with full soul power, he never stopped. Because he didn't dare. He is not a prince of Xingluo. Although he is a descendant of the consecrated Douluo, he is still a commoner in essence. In the Xingluo Empire, the competition between commoners like them is not much weaker than that between the two princes of Xingluo. If he doesn't work hard, what will happen to his family in the future? Will they rely on his sister who basically only knows how to eat, drink and have fun? Because she is a girl, Suyu, who also has full soul power first, has been spoiled by her family since she was born. She knows about the undercurrents in the palace, but she doesn't think it's a big deal. Originally, he thought that he would spend his life in such hard training, and eventually inherit his grandfather's mantle and become Xingluo's consecrated Douluo, protecting the emperor of Xingluo, and also protecting his sister who knows nothing, and protecting his and his sister's home. He thought that his life would be like this. For this reason, he has never even played with or talked with children of the same age. Except for his sister. Because he knew this since he was a child and knew the responsibilities on his shoulders, he always looked very silent and unsmiling in the eyes of outsiders. At first, he felt heavy in his heart. Until one day, he and his sister were kidnapped by two men in black at the same time. They were also familiar with the faces under the masks of the two men in black. They were two other worshippers of the Xingluo Empire. They took him and his sister to a place they had never been to. Then there, they saw the beloved Xingluo Great Prince, Davis. But this beloved Xingluo Great Prince imprisoned him and his sister. In order to limit their soul power, Davis would send people to feed them a potion every day. This potion not only restricted the operation of their soul power, but also made their physical strength continue to drain, making it difficult to move. After a while, he was separated from his sister. Because he was blindfolded all the time, he didn't know where he was sent. He also didn't know where his sister was sent, and whether she was still in the cage where they stayed directly. In the dark cage without sunlight, just as he opened his eyes and stared at the darkness, the former child realized he couldn't stop. Never. And these people could never stop him. At that moment, the heart that once felt heavy and unwilling suddenly calmed down. It was as if all the heartstrings related to it were suddenly cut off. He lay calmly on the cold ground in the cage. He calmly stared at the darkness on the top of the cage. He calmly swallowed the medicine fed to him by the guard. The only thing that could make him feel a little upset was his sister. He was worried whether his sister was also suffering from the pain he was suffering, and whether she had become as calm as a pool of stagnant water as he was. He didn't know how long such days had passed. But one day, the heart that had been calmed to death was disturbed again because of another person. In the dark cage, a wet mouse broke into it at some point. And the mouse seemed to always whisper in his ear. At first, he just thought it was an illusion. But when his fingers, which had been unconscious for a long time, suddenly moved slightly under his unconscious control, he told himself that if it was an illusion, then let him indulge it. He started chatting with the mouse. Of course, he couldn't speak, but the mouse could magically know his thoughts. However, the mouse was not always by his side. The time it communicated with him was intermittent, ranging from half an hour to 3 hours. Sometimes, the mouse would leave, and soon after, it would be replaced by a cockroach or something else. When he was able to control his entire right hand, he reached out and grabbed the mouse that was talking to him. "How is my sister?" the mouse squeaked, but no familiar voice sounded in his mind. A spider crawled over. "Your sister is fine, I often talk to her," so he let go of the mouse and closed his eyes as if relieved. The second before his consciousness fell into sleep, he conveyed his last thoughts. "That's good," and the one who had been talking to him was naturally Tang Liu. But perhaps only Tang Liu knew. It was really just a little bit away. Suyu was a beautiful girl. And a beautiful girl who could no longer resist. The person guarding her had already had evil intentions and was about to take action. But fortunately, the small animal controlled by his Howlin' mark found the place where Suyu was imprisoned in time, so he used it to influence the consciousness of the guards and prevented the tragedy from happening. Tang Liu didn't mention it, so Su Chen naturally didn't know. So Su Chen looked at the illusion of Shadow Douluo in front of him and said, "No, he always saves words. But now, he feels that he should say more. Unless my life is over, otherwise, I will never stop. Even if the price of moving forward is high. Even if everything is meaningless in my eyes. Even if I cut off all emotions for this. What I cherish will always be cherished by me." He felt that incomparable sense of calm again. But this time, under that calm feeling, there was a surging heat like fire. So the Shadow Douluo in front of him disappeared. But the illusion did not disappear completely. Instead, there was another figure. That figure was actually himself. He looked at himself. He asked, "Even if I fall into heartless heart?" He looked at himself. Answer, "Even if I fall into heartless heart." Chapter 340 No Regrets Soul Core Ray. He took a step forward and passed through the phantom. His eyes blurred, and the world of light and darkness disappeared. Instead, there was a green grassland. Just as he was puzzled, a figure slowly walked in front of him. Su Chen looked carefully and found that the figure was Tang Liu. Tang Liu walked up to him and said to him with a smile, "It seems that you have walked out of the yin-yang soul refining abyss." Hearing this, Su Chen couldn't help but be stunned for a moment, obviously still a little unresponsive. He has walked out of the yin-yang soul refining abyss? Before he could think carefully, Tang Liu's voice sounded again. However, Tang Liu walked behind him and said, "But, Suyu doesn't seem to have come out yet." Su Chen subconsciously wanted to turn his head back and let his eyes follow Tang Liu's figure. But the moment he turned his head just now, he was suddenly startled. No matter what happened, he couldn't turn back. When Tang Liu's words suddenly echoed in his mind, Su Chen forcibly stopped the urge to turn his head. At this time, he also began to ask himself whether he had really walked out of the yin-yang soul refining abyss. And it was at this time that Tang Liu's voice sounded again. However, this time it sounded directly in his ear. "Why don't you look back?" Su Chen shuddered and immediately released all his soul power. The dense dark elements immediately filled the surroundings, dispelling Tang Liu's phantom and the phantom of the grassland. After the phantom disappeared, Su Chen found that he was still in the dark canyon. Above his head, the sun had long disappeared, and only the blue sky could be seen. Now, he should have really come out. However, there was no figure of Suyu around him. Moreover, the dark elements around him were still dense. Suyu was trapped in the phantom. She also realized that Tang Liu's voice behind her should be the yin-yang soul refining abyss, deceiving them, so she did not turn back in the end. However, she saw Tang Liu's figure appear in front of her. In front of Tang Liu was another person. Someone she had met several times. Jin Rixu. While she was in a trance, the surrounding scene began to change drastically. She seemed to be in the sky. Divine light shone all around. There seemed to be shouts from below. But Suyu didn't care. She only cared about the golden trident that pierced Tang Liu's body. As Tang Liu's figure blocked her view, she only saw a few strands of golden hair fluttering. She killed him. This was the only thought left in Suyu's mind. After that, everything disappeared. As if nothing had happened. Suyu just stood there in the light. Being in the light was warm. But she always felt cold and empty in her heart. In a daze, she only heard someone seem to say, "Do you regret it?" And then, her firm voice sounded, "No regrets. Are you ready? Ready? Have you done everything I asked you to do?" Lu Qiufang glanced at the red-eyed evil spirit in a blood skirt not far away and nodded, "I did it all. Do you still remember the method and steps of condensing the soul core?" "I remember." "Then what should we do next?" "Start condensing the soul core, and the rest is up to you." "What after that?" Successfully absorb the soul core at the moment the illusion closes. Then, at the moment the soul core is successfully fused, wake up from reality. Yes. Then what dangers will you encounter in this process? At the moment of merging the soul core, you will be killed by the evil spirit and fall into a state of suspended animation. Whether you can wake up from the state of suspended animation depends on whether I can successfully merge the soul core with myself. Tang Liu smiled and said, then let's start now. Lu Qifeng was a little panicked. Start now? Do you still want to drag it on? Think about it, you still have to go through the test of Kyankan asking Love Valley. You may have faked your death in the hands of the evil spirit, but if you fail to complete the test, you will be truly dead, and even I can't save you. Lu Qifeng shuddered, and suddenly remembered that there was still Kyankan asking Love Valley. So he immediately sat cross-legged and mobilized the soul power in his body. Then I'll start, don't worry, I'm here to watch. Tang Liu paused deliberately, as if he was talking to someone else. Lu Qifeng nodded gently, and then directly mobilized a part of the soul power from his danshan, and began to rotate and compress the soul power outside his body. Because of his previous experience, he did not start with a wisp of soul power like the first time, so he quickly compressed the soul power vortex to the point where it began to absorb the soul power in his body. Moreover, he actively and boldly input soul power into the soul power vortex. Of course, he did not forget to maintain the balance of the soul power vortex, otherwise the rapidly rotating soul power vortex in front of him might explode directly because of any soul power he input into it. Although he was in the illusion now, the damage caused by the soul core explosion would also appear on his real body. Similarly, when he began to condense the soul core began to appear in his real body and was slowly taking shape. Lu Qifeng was not very clear about the principle here. He only knew that there would be no problem if he did it according to Tang Liu's instructions. Half an hour passed, and the soul power in Lu Qifeng's body was completely drained. But it was still far from the complete formation of the soul core. Tang Liu, who had been prepared for a long time, activated the soul skill of his right eye at this moment. The light of the truth. With the influence of the light of the truth, Tang Liu was able to personally control the arrangements that Lu Qifeng had made in the illusion in advance. The mirror in front of Lu Qifeng, on which the pentagram was painted with blood at some unknown time, lit up at this time. As the pentagram lit up, the mirror gradually dimmed, and the room illuminated by the candlelight gradually disappeared in the mirror. The next thing to disappear was the blood-skirted evil spirit that had been standing not far away, staring at Lu Qifeng. The disappeared blood-skirted evil spirit appeared in the mirror, and her hideous face was somewhat blurred by the pentagram. She opened her mouth and let out a silent roar, and her red eyes and rotten mouth corners began to quickly flow down with black blood. Then, she disappeared in the mirror. In the places that Lu Qifeng could not see, the bodies that he had put into the bathtub by himself burned with blue flames, and finally turned into ashes, and were carried to every corner of the room by the wind that blew from nowhere. At the moment when all the bodies were completely turned into ashes, a body was suddenly spit out by the mirror. At the moment when the body was spit out by the mirror, the pentagram where Lu Qifeng was suddenly lit up. Gusts of cold wind blew in the room, and then turned into cold and pure energy, which merged into Lu Qifeng's body. Then, Lu Qifeng used it and merged it into the vortex of soul power. Happy New Year! Today is New Year's Eve, and the author has started to update. However, our update links are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10, increasing in sequence. Tomorrow is the Spring Festival, which is also the first day of the new year, lunar calendar, and we will update twice now. Look forward to whether this year's Spring Festival Gala will surprise you, and have a good reunion with your family. Chapter 341 The First Soul Core. I don't know how long it has been. The soul power vortex no longer greedily devours pure energy, but just rotates steadily in the air, slowly absorbing the energy floating around to grow itself. But this is still one step away from the complete formation of the soul core. Let it collapse. The real soul core contains a certain amount of spatial power, and this spatial power is also the reason why the ultimate Douluo in the future can cross short distances. Of course, if a soul master wants to cross space, he needs the support of at least 2 soul cores. And he also needs to have the total amount of soul power like the ultimate Douluo. Whether the soul power vortex can be successfully collapsed is either a direct out-of-control explosion or whether the soul core can be formed, which is the key to helping the soul master practice independently. From the moment he began to condense the soul core, Lu Qiufeng closed his eyes, using his mental power to perceive and control everything throughout the process. This is also Tang Liu's request, because the soul core condensed by Lu Qiufeng is to be absorbed into the upper Danshan, so that the soul core condensed by Lu Qiufeng can have more spiritual attributes, and it will also be more helpful for him to wake up from the state of suspended death later. Although this soul core is condensed by soul power, when this soul core is successfully absorbed by Lu Qiufeng and enters the upper Danshan, as he practices, the core of the soul core will gradually be replaced by spirit power instead of soul power. Finally, the soul power and spirit power in Lu Qiufeng's body will be driven by the soul core to operate in a mixed manner, and the spirit power will be inside and the soul power will be outside to operate around the soul core, completely turning this soul core into a spiritual attribute. By then, Lu Qiufeng's spirit power will definitely be greatly improved. And at this time, it is the key point of soul core condensation. Lu Qiufeng's eyes, which had been closed all the time, opened at this moment. His pair of sword eyes released extremely sharp light, like two sharp swords, deeply piercing into the soul power vortex that was rotating at a uniform speed. The soul power vortex trembled twice, and even had a slight tendency to expand, which made people worry whether it would break and disappear in the next moment. But in the end, the soul power vortex held up and returned to a stable state. And the depths of the vortex looked pitch black at this moment, and there was a faint flash of sword light inside. Soul core condensed. Success. Lu Qiufeng let out a long breath, closed his eyes again, and began to use his mental power to pull the soul core, bringing it into his upper Danshan and starting to merge with it. Outside the illusion, Tang Liu, who had been paying close attention, also breathed a sigh of relief, and then immediately began his own actions. The female corpse that fell in front of Lu Qiufeng suddenly opened her eyes at this moment. The pair of eyes had long been covered with a layer of gray-white film, and the position of the iris and pupils could not be seen at all. The female corpse moved. She stretched out her hand and struggled to crawl towards Lu Qiufeng. After approaching Lu Qiufeng, she stood up with a lightning speed and pinched Lu Qiufeng's neck fiercely. However, from the surface, the female corpse's pinch did not seem to cause any actual harm to Lu Qiufeng. Because Lu Qiufeng's neck skin did not even sink due to the force of the female corpse's fingers. But Lu Qiufeng was indeed pinched by the female corpse, and gradually lost his body functions and began to die. And this is what Tang Liu has been preparing for. The fusion of soul cores is not a trivial matter, and generally it cannot be disturbed too much. Therefore, Tang Liu absolutely cannot let the female corpse really strangle Lu Qiufeng's neck to distract him. But the premise of closing the illusion must be that all 15 of them must die, so Lu Qiufeng must be killed. Then, how to prevent Lu Qiufeng from being disturbed when he is killed and continue to absorb and fuse soul cores smoothly has become a problem that must be solved. And this problem has been solved by Tang Liu in the first attempt. As Lu Qiufeng's consciousness disappeared, the illusion disappeared in Tang Liu's senses. His connection with Lu Qiufeng was also cut off. Now, it depends on whether Lu Qiufeng can successfully fuse the soul core. In reality, the past. The waiter of the bar carried 15 corpses of various deaths out of the bar with an indifferent and numb expression, and threw them directly on the wasteland not far behind the bartender. Obviously, he has long been accustomed to this kind of thing, and it is not the first time he has done it. However, it is the first time that 15 people died directly, and all died at the same time. The deaths of these 15 people were also miserable. They were either beheaded, split in half, or torn apart. There were only a few bodies that were intact, but there were long and narrow wounds on the foreheads, necks, and chests of those bodies, as if they were killed by a sharp weapon. Oh no, there was another body, which was intact and had no injuries, but there was a pair of black fingerprints on the neck, as if it was strangled to death by something. The waiter thought indifferently and dumped the bodies from the back car. At this moment, the body with black fingerprints on the neck suddenly took a deep breath, opened his eyes and sat up. He panted violently, looked around with doubtful eyes, and then saw the waiter at first sight. The waiter was still in a state of panic and confusion about a sudden resurrection of the body. Before he could react, he was beheaded by a sudden sword light. Became the 15th corpse in the pile of corpses. Lu Qiufeng called back Jiu Feng, adjusted his breathing, and then concentrated on his inner gaze, checking his current physical condition. Everything was normal. It was much stronger than before. The soul power had improved, almost approaching the bottleneck of level 80. And the most eye-catching thing was the slowly rotating vortex in his sea of spirit. Soul Core. Lu Qifeng's face was full of joy. He came out. But he couldn't be happy for too long. Because the voice of Kyankan Wenking Valley sounded in his mind again. Please start the third round of assessment as soon as possible. Lu Qifeng jumped down from the pile of corpses, rubbed his somewhat sore neck, and then walked towards the tavern. His steps were a little hurried, and it seemed that he also wanted to end the assessment as soon as possible and return to the normal time node. I see. On a piece of ice cap, Tang Liu sat cross-legged here. The green flame pattern on his left eye and the blood-red thorn pattern on his right eye faded at the same time. He then opened his eyes and looked at the somewhat gray sky. It worked, he said. Including your first soul core. He paused for a second, then raised his lips slightly. Yes. Chapter 342, Advancement to Contra. But why don't you let me condense the soul core of the upper Danshan first, but the easiest lower Danshan? He asked again. There was a chuckle from the sky, and then a light and shadow flew out from Tang Liu's body. Tang Liu looked at his physical body sitting below, a little speechless. Then, in his current state of soul, he watched his body gradually float up, and finally aligned with him. Then, 3 points of light lit up on his body. The upper Danshan, middle Danshan, and lower Danshan in this world are what we call the Yin Tang, Tan's Hong, and Danshan acupoints here. At this time, Tang Liu saw that his body gradually dimmed and turned into pitch-black shadow man, and only 3 points of light became extremely conspicuous. After that, the light located in his lower abdomen, that is, the lower Danshan acupoint, slowly turned into the shape of a small grass. The Danshan acupoint is the place where all your soul power is stored in this world. It is the starting point and end point of the soul power running throughout the body. It is also the foundation for your cultivation, the root. Therefore, it is most appropriate to condense the soul core of your blue-silver emperor martial spirit here. Then, the light spot at the Danshan in the Danshan of the Dansong acupoint on his chest turned into a small iron hammer. The Dansong acupoint, your middle Danshan, you must condense the soul core of the clear sky hammer martial spirit here. Because the trunk bones you will obtain in the future will definitely match the power attribute of the clear sky hammer, so it is most appropriate to condense the soul core of the clear sky hammer martial spirit here. Then, it was the last light spot, located between his eyebrows. Finally, the Yintang acupoint. This is the closest to your soul, and your soul and the Shaolin magic are both from another world, and only your soul that was born and raised here can withstand the soul core condensed by the Shaolin magic. But as long as you are not level 98, you still cannot withstand the soul core of the Shaolin magic. Because every time you successfully condense a soul core, it is equivalent to compressing the soul power of your whole body again. Once you reach this soul core, it is the 9th compression, and then the 9 nines return to 1, and the qualitative change produced is unbearable for any living being in this world. And now, you are neither level 98, nor have you obtained a torso bone with strength attributes. Naturally, it is most appropriate to condense the blue-silver emperor soul core in the Danshan acupoint first. As soon as the voice fell, Tang Liu found that he had sat on the ground again. The connection during this period was so fast, as if nothing had happened just now. Now, you should condense the 8th soul ring of Shaolin magic. Tang Liu felt a blue-gold soul core rotating steadily in his Danshan, and then closed his eyes. 7 soul rings of Shaolin magic appeared around him. Gradually, the 8th blue-black soul ring began to show its traces. Slaughter City. Lu Qifeng had been in this place for more than 3 months, and had already figured out the rules here and the conditions for obtaining the domain of the god of killing. He must challenge the Hell Road and pass it successfully before he can obtain the domain of the god of killing and leave the Slaughter City. What surprised him was that there was not only Tang San, who he had seen come in with his own eyes, but also another acquaintance, Hulina. When in the illusion, Tang Liu told Lu Qifeng a lot about the Slaughter City. For example, there was actually a peerless Douluo who was at the 99th level, but could not yet exert his full strength, that is, the owner of this Slaughter City. For example, in this Slaughter City, soul masters could not use soul skills, but only martial souls. But Tang Liu told him not to release Jiu Feng easily, because Tang Liu was also hiding in the Slaughter City at this time, observing everything. If he used Jiu Feng and was discovered by Tang Liu at this time, he didn't know what kind of trouble would be caused. Therefore, since entering, Lu Qifeng has used an iron sword that is not too well made to fight in every game. But a true swordsmanship master, even if he only has a wooden stick in his hand, can also use the power of a peerless sword, so Lu Qiufeng's combat effectiveness is not limited by this. In addition, you must not drink Bloody Mary in the Slaughter City, because it is poisonous. Of course, what Tang Liu told him is far more than that. There are also various tests and difficulties in the Hell Road. However, the time when he really entered the Hell Road is still a long time ago. Qiangun Wanking Valley said that it would take him about a year to complete this assessment, and now, only 3 months of a year have passed. Lu Qiufeng sighed lightly, glanced at the crimes happening on the street under the window, and then turned and left, waving his hand, and a strong wind closed the window. This is indeed a city of sin. When he first entered, he intervened. But in the end, he still found that those people were just willing to fall into sin. There was no coercion or compulsion at all. Those things, here, are as common as drinking water and eating for people outside. Haolan's 8th soul ring of magic was condensed successfully. Tang Liu's cultivation finally broke through level 80, but not to level 81. When the 8th soul ring was condensed successfully, his soul power was by leaps and bounds, and then he came directly to the next bottleneck. Level 89. If he wants to advance, he must condense another soul core. But now, let's replenish your spirit rings first. Tang Liu looked up at the sky. Are we going to look for spirit beasts here? The firstborn smiled. Why, do you look down on my God-given spirit rings? Tang Liu nodded honestly. Yes, I don't. Why don't you give me something better? You're welcome. But before I give it to you, why don't you absorb the 200,000-year spirit ring and spirit bone of the Emperor Golden Tiger that you have prepared long ago? Tang Liu was a little surprised, because only he, Xiao Funi, Di Shuang and Di Yan knew about this. After figuring out how to use the Haolan seal to extract spirit bones from spirit beasts, Tang Liu immediately went to the back mountain of Haoshan Castle, found the Emperor Golden Tiger, borrowed another 200,000-year spirit ring, and borrowed a 200,000-year spirit bone by the way. Of course, at that time, the Emperor Golden Tiger was still his first official experimental subject. However, thinking about this firstborn who knows everything and is suspected to be omnipotent, it would be strange if he didn't know such a small thing. So Tang Liu first took out a blood red, 2 gold-striped 200,000-year soul ring, and then offered the clear sky hammer martial spirit that he couldn't lift, and began to absorb it. The clear sky hammer itself had a blood red soul ring that was already very eye-catching, and now he was about to have a second one. Could he really have a full red clear sky hammer? Then he had to thank Uncle Jin for the 200,000-year soul rings he gave him as a gift. Chapter 343, The pattern is too small. The absorption process of the spirit ring and spirit bone was extremely smooth. It took Tang Liu less than half an hour to successfully fuse the spirit ring and spirit bone. At this point, his second martial spirit, the clear sky hammer, also had a second spirit ring. Of course, 2 new spirit rings, plus the spirit power brought by a spirit bone, still failed to allow him to break through from level 89 to level 90. It seems that although he had the help of the firstborn to conceal the secret when he condensed his soul core, the world rules of Douluo continent still changed in him. It's just that this change has not yet been popularized to the entire Douluo star. After he absorbed all the spirit rings and spirit bones, the firstborn spoke again. Now, your first martial soul has 7 spirit rings, your second martial soul has 2 spirit rings, and your third martial soul has a complete 8 spirit rings. As for the spirit bones, before this, you only had external spirit bones, the left and right eyes, the left and right wings, a total of 4 pieces. Now you have absorbed the right arm bone of the Emperor Golden Tiger, and its power attribute just matches the clear sky hammer in your right hand. Of course, your left and right dragon wing spirit bones are actually just the places where the 2 little dragons live, and strictly speaking, they cannot be considered as your spirit bones. Your truly unique external spirit bones are the left eye of the demon eye that you obtained from the demon eye demon tree, and the right eye of the evil pupil that was transformed by depriving the evil eye tyrant of most of its head spirit bones. So far, you still lack the head spirit bone, the torso bone, the left arm bone, and the leg bones. In addition, there are 9 spirit rings to be completed, so remember that you owe me a lot. Tang Liu was confused. You mean, I have to pay you back? Well, after all, they are all relatively rare species, and we rarely see them here. Tang Liu, he was stunned for a long time. Wait a minute, You mean our place, that is the one where children go to school and do homework every day, and adults go to work and work overtime every day. It is ordinary, and the farthest humans have ever been to is the moon? Oh, there is the Howland magic collection that brought him here, and this firstborn who doesn't know where he came from but is very high-ranking. It seems that his original world is really not a simple place. But it is still unbelievable. In that place with tall buildings everywhere, can there be things like soul beasts here? If there are they meow meow and wong wong? Firstborn, the pattern is small. You are still a high school student. Have you read the classic of mountains and seas? Even if you haven't read it, you should have some understanding, right? There are so many rare and exotic animals recorded in it. Which one is not as rare and awesome as the soul beasts here? Tang Liu, okay, he was speechless. He said, even if there are, they are not soul beasts. How can I get soul rings and soul bones? The firstborn was disappointed. Your vision is still too small. Aren't you a smart kid? Why are you still being stupid now? Soul rings are nothing more than the energy in the soul beast's body, that is, the embodiment of soul condensation. For specific strength, you can refer to the extra chapter of a comic book of Douluo. Ming directly condensed a 10,000-year soul ring for Xiao Wu to play with. Although the comics and novels are quite different, they are also based on the same parallel universe under the same setting, and most of the rules are the same. What's more, you can also directly borrow rings and borrow bones from soul beasts. In this case, why can't I take some energy from the bodies of the rare and precious beasts here, transform them into soul rings and soul bones that you can absorb? Tang Liu, good guy, so you really can do everything? Firstborn, so you were trying to trick me. Don't be fooled by my high-sounding title, but I'm still a little short of omnipotence. Of course, I can be said to be omnipotent within a certain range, but once this range is expanded, I can't do it. In addition, omniscience is not something I can do. Even the system arranged for you cannot be truly omniscient. The setting of the most comprehensive information database of the heavens and myriad worlds it has is only relative to the universes we know now. Outside the heavens and myriad worlds we know, new worlds and new rules are constantly emerging. And those worlds are beyond our observation. Tang Liu felt that it was a bit profound, and it seemed that it was not something that people of his level could know, so he changed the subject. Then what kind of spirit rings and spirit bones do you plan to arrange for me, firstborn? Well, I've thought about it a long time ago, but I have to catch you now. Wait for me, I have already made one at home. Hey, Eugene, come here. The voice of the last sentence suddenly became a little smaller, which gave Tang Liu a strong sense of déjà vu. It was like when you were on the phone, the person on the other end suddenly put the phone away and talked to someone else. Tang Liu, good fellow, you are not really using the phone to communicate with him across dimensions, are you? After a while, the voice of the firstborn became normal again. Okay, the spirit ring and spirit bone you asked for are here. After that, 2 rays of light fell from the sky and turned into a complete torso bone and a golden spirit ring in front of Tang Liu. Well, if you introduce it in the way of Douluo continent, then you can call these 2 things in front of you the soul ring and soul bone of the Karma Dragon Emperor. His cultivation is naturally at the level of 1,000,000 years. Of course, he has only been practicing for more than 2,000 years. I just took half of his spiritual power for this soul ring and soul bone, transformed it and sent it here, and it has become at the level of 1,000,000 years. Tang Liu looked at the golden soul ring and the crystal clear torso bone next to the soul ring, swallowed his saliva and said, is this really the Karma Dragon Emperor? Well, he's just lucky and got some power about ki, luck and life. Tang Liu stretched out his hand and poked the soul ring and soul bone, and said, is this the dragon you raise? Also, is it really a dragon? The kind with a camel head, deer horns, and cow eyes? Indeed, I raised it. Back then, it was just a weak, pitiful and helpless little cave salamander that could only gnaw on the medicinal herbs I planted. Now its real body can directly cross the entire China. Tang Liu listened to the sighing tone, and a question mark slowly appeared on his forehead. Alman, is it the Olm he knows? Don't underestimate him. He is now the source of spiritual energy here. If he is gone, for people like us, it would be equivalent to returning to the Dharma ending age. Tang Liu, didn't he travel through time and space to a fantasy novel? What kind of cultivation is he talking about now? Chapter 344 Road to Hell. Okay, let's not talk so much. You will naturally understand it gradually after you come back. Don't absorb this soul bone and soul ring yet. I have to raise your mental power to the top level below the God level first. Only your current physical body can completely withstand the impact of soul power at the million-year level. Tang Liu's eyes lit up. Are you going to find a skill for me? To be honest, I don't like any of the head soul bones here. Maybe only the Silver Dragon King's is worthy of me. Bah, you are not even qualified to carry the shoes of the Silver Dragon King now. He is at least at the level of a God King, okay? If a God King comes to you now, you can't run away. What if I'm level 98? No, unless your Haolan spell condenses the 10th circle of soul rings, which is the last circle of soul rings. Otherwise, even if you are level 99, you can't beat a God King. Okay. Lu Qifeng finally completed the prerequisite for entering the Hell Road. After staying in the Slaughter City for so long, he understood that the duel in the Slaughter City was actually to cultivate the killing spirit of each participant. Once the killing spirit is sufficient, you can challenge the Hell Road. The killing god domain obtained after passing the Hell Road should be to integrate all the killing spirit and finally transform it into a domain type skill. Of course, Tang San and Hulina, who came in before him, had already met the prerequisites for challenging the Hell Road. Yesterday, they entered the Hell Road together. Now they may have obtained the killing god domain and left the Slaughter City. And Lu Qifeng himself also planned to challenge the Hell Road today and leave the Slaughter City. He has been at this time point for a long time, and he has long hoped to leave early and go back to the now. After completing the prerequisites for the Hell Killing Field, if you want to enter the Hell Road, you still need the owner of the Slaughter City, the Slaughter King, to open the door of the Hell Road for him. Therefore, Lu Qifeng met the Slaughter King in person. However, for some reason, compared with yesterday, the King of Slaughter in front of him seemed to lack the evil murderous aura that was like a ghost. Of course, this could also be because he only watched the King of Slaughter talking to Tang San and Hulina from a distance yesterday, which caused some errors in his perception. Moreover, once he left here, the past would no longer have anything to do with him. So why would he make trouble for no reason? Without any extra nonsense, the King of Slaughter opened the door to the Hell Road for him. A turbid and hot breath came out from the Hell Road. Lu Qifeng stepped in without hesitation. After entering, the cold murderous aura on his body immediately surged out, wrapping him tightly inside and isolating him from the dirty and hot air. Lu Qifeng strode forward, and when he was sure that he was far away from the entrance of the Hell Road, he summoned Yu Feng, and then flew along the Hell Road at a high speed on his sword. As a soul saint, he could naturally fly by himself with his soul power, but he learned the sword controlling trick from Tang Liu, and he found that this way of flying was not only faster, but also consumed less soul power. So, soon, he came to the first level of the Hell Road. Dark Gold Three-Headed Bat King. If his strength was the same as Tang San and Hulina, only at the Soul King or Soul Emperor level, then it would be difficult for him to win against this Dark Gold Three-Headed Bat King. But now he is close to the level of Soul Douluo, and he is also a peerless genius cultivated by Tang Liu. He simply controlled Yu Feng, stabbed the Dark Gold Three-Headed Bat King from behind, and activated Yu Feng's devouring ability. In less than 10 seconds, the Dark Gold Three-Headed Bat King was drained of all his soul power and vitality, and turned into a dried corpse and fell to the ground, breaking into pieces. Lu Qifeng did not stop, and controlled Yu Feng to continue to fly rapidly along the Hell Road. Because he could fly, the rugged and dangerous terrain of the Hell Road did not affect him. Instead, the poison in the air had a greater impact on him. However, these poisons that could disturb his mind could not cause much trouble under the suppression of his calm sword heart. Moreover, as he went deeper into the Hell Road, Lu Qifeng also found that the murderous aura on his body became extremely active, as if something was about to wake up. Lu Qifeng could roughly guess what it was, so he couldn't help but worry a little, so he increased his speed again. Finally, he came to the second round of levels. 10-headed fiery sun snake. It took him a long time to deal with this ancient beast. After all, he was still under the suppression of the City of Slaughter and could not use his soul skills. But the talents that Yu Feng possessed were enough for him to deal with this 10-headed fiery sun snake. After solving it, he continued to move forward. The air around him became more turbid, the temperature became hotter, and the smell of blood suddenly became stronger. The murderous aura around him became extremely active, and an inexplicable restlessness appeared in his heart, urging him to keep going. So Lu Qifeng stopped. According to Tang Liu, This city of slaughter is actually the sacred land of the Shura god, hiding the Shura god test. And his Qiufeng sealed the consciousness of the god of slaughter. The god of slaughter is also the strongest god under the command of the Shura god. If he really obtained the domain of the god of slaughter, what will happen in that case? But if he wants to leave this time node, he must complete the assessment of Kyankin-Wenking Valley, that is, obtain the domain of the god of slaughter. Now, he is in a dilemma. The exit should be not far away, but once he leaves the Hell Road, he will automatically obtain the domain of the god of slaughter. But the one who leaves the city of slaughter in the end will be him, Lu Qiufeng. Or is it the god of slaughter, Zupris, who has a Lu Qiufeng skin? I thought you would realize this only at the last moment. If that's the case, then you're really unqualified. Lu Qiufeng turned around abruptly. What came into view was a man in a black cloak. Tang Liu. Lu Qiufeng's first reaction was that he was discovered by Tang Liu at this time node. But the next sentence of the Tang Liu in front of him overturned his guess. I'm not the Tang Liu at this time node. Lu Qiufeng breathed a sigh of relief. Since it's not this time point, it should be now. I'm not the Tang Liu at your time node either, Lu Qiufeng. The Tang Liu in front of him smiled and said, but I am indeed Tang Liu. You just need to know this, Lu Qiufeng. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 345, The God of Death Awakens. He took a deep breath, and then pretended to be confused. What, Lu Qiufeng? Who is Lu Qiufeng? Who is Lu Qiufeng? I'm not Lu Qiufeng, my name is 15. The atmosphere fell into dead silence in an instant. Tang Liu sighed softly. In my eyes, you are either the appearance of 15 or your true appearance. In other words, the methods of Kyankin-Wenking Valley are no longer useful to me now. Lu Qiufeng's whole body froze. Tang Liu smiled softly, walked over slowly, and stretched out his hand to grab in the air. The next moment, a snow-white grass appeared on his palm, wrapped in a layer of faint blue-black light. Don't panic, I won't eat you. Your good captain is here to help you. With your current cultivation level of a mere soul saint, how can you defeat a level 2 God-Slayer god? Tang Liu walked up to Lu Qiufeng, who dared not move, and said with a smile, come on, open your mouth, Feng, it's time to drink the medicine. Lu Qiufeng didn't want to open his mouth, but it was directly opened by the Heaolin force field. Tang Liu waved his hand lightly, and the snow-white grass wrapped in blue light immediately turned into a ball of white liquid medicine and fell into Lu Qiufeng's mouth. Lu Qiufeng, the Heaolin force field forced him to close his mouth again to prevent him from spitting out the liquid medicine. After a while, Lu Qiufeng finally broke free from the constraints of the Heaolin force field. He coughed a few times as if he was choked, then looked at Tang Liu and asked, what is that? Tang Liu said with a smile, that is a magical grass called Snow Swan Kiss. Tang San threw it here yesterday, but I picked it up. Seeing Lu Qiufeng's worried look, Tang Liu seemed to remember something and said, don't worry, this Snow Swan Kiss is not poisonous at all. Lu Qiufeng, that's good, Tang Liu, but it can't be said to be harmless, because its characteristics are more powerful than many poisons. Lu Qiufeng, is he going to die? Tang Liu looked at Lu Qiufeng's face, he laughed and said, okay, I won't tease you anymore. The function of this Snow Swan Kiss is to stimulate the characteristics of all things and enhance their effectiveness. It is non-toxic by itself, but once combined with other things, it may become a completely unsolvable poison. Of course, I let you eat it just to let it fully act on the soul power, mental power, and murderous aura in your body, so that when you obtain the Killing God domain, the benefits you get will be maximized. You must always understand that I am your captain. How could I harm you? Lu Qiufeng's eyes were empty. Did you think so when you scared me just now? Tang Liu said confidently. Of course, Lu Qiufeng didn't want to talk, and he didn't have much extra energy to talk, because the effect of the Snow Swan Kiss had begun to show. He now felt that the soul power and mental power in his body began to grow rapidly, and the murderous aura he possessed was several times stronger than before. In just a blink of an eye, he was much stronger than before. Tang Liu patted his shoulder and said to him, okay, keep going forward. It's almost time for you to go back. With his pat, Lu Qiufeng felt a little bloated due to the surge of soul power, and it disappeared without a trace. It seemed that he had completely absorbed the medicinal power of the Snow Swan Kiss and completely integrated these surges of strength. He looked at Tang Liu, looked at the encouraging warm smile on his face, nodded gently, turned around, and drove Jiu Feng to continue flying towards the deepest part of the Hell Road. Tang Liu watched Lu Qiufeng's back, and then said softly, "Whether you can kill the gods depends on whether you can recognize your heart." After that, his figure disappeared out of thin air. No trace. Lu Qiufeng came all the way to the end of the Hell Road. At a glance, he found the cave above his head. And that should be the exit of this Hell Road. Without any hesitation, he drove Jiu Feng and climbed rapidly, and soon arrived in front of the cave. He looked at the white light curtain in the cave, paused to take a deep breath, and then rushed in directly on his sword. He entered a special world. The world of white nothingness all around. And when he appeared in this world, a white and golden stream of light suddenly shot out from Jiu Feng, and turned into a human figure not far away from him. Killing God, Shupras. He laughed loudly, "Ha ha ha ha, it seems that the sky is also helping me, and it actually let you, an ant, enter the inheritance land of Shura God." He looked at Lu Qiufeng, trying to find a trace of fear of the gods on the face of this ant in his eyes. Just like the moment when the queen of the inner world, the wild god, Li Yan saw him. But he couldn't find it. He couldn't even find any changes in emotional fluctuations. Lu Qiufeng just held Jiu Feng in his hand, his body floating, and looked at him expressionlessly. Compared with him, the killing god, at this moment, Lu Qiufeng looked more like a god. But this is impossible. This ant is just a tiny human with a little cultivation. He gnashed his teeth and said, "I will kill you, wipe out your consciousness, take your body, leave here, and return to the god realm. No, I am the god of killing, the #1 god under the command of the Shura god. I can take your body, return to this city of slaughter, complete the Shura god test, and become the new Shura god." Lu Qiufeng finally reacted. He sneered and said sarcastically, "Relying on you now with only a little consciousness left." The god of killing said viciously, "Even if I only have this little consciousness left, I am still a god, a great god, a god you need to look up to forever." Lu Qiufeng snorted coldly, his figure slowly climbed up, looking down at the god of killing below, and said, "If everyone in the god realm is like you who is ignorant, selfish and arrogant, then this god realm is really unworthy of its name." The god of killing roared, "How dare you insult the god realm?" The sarcasm in Lu Qiufeng's expression became even stronger. "You are not angry because I insulted the god realm, are you? It's just because I insulted you and uncovered your high-sounding fig leaf for you." The god of killing instantly lost his mind. He soared into the sky at an incredible speed. "I will kill you, extract your soul and let you die in great pain." However, his figure, which was so fast that it was difficult to distinguish with the naked eye, finally stopped at Lu Qiufeng's feet and could no longer move an inch. The third update has arrived. Continuing to write, the fourth update will be tomorrow. Chapter 346, Killing the Heart, Killing God. Lu Qiufeng looked down at the god of death at his feet and said, "I thought it would be difficult for me to defeat you." The god of death opened his mouth wide, making a clicking sound in his throat, but he just couldn't say a complete sentence. "But when you fully expressed your true thoughts, I found that you, the so-called second-level god, the god of death, are just like that. You are not righteous, nor are you selfless. You still have the essence of a human. You are as greedy as humans, you are as hypocritical as humans, and you have everything that humans have. But you have strength that humans don't have, so you have lost a conscience that humans use to restrain their nature. And now, the only ones who can restrain you are the gods in the god realm who are higher than you. But when you know that this is the inheritance place of the Shura god, this restraint disappears for you." Lu Qiufeng chuckled and continued, "I really don't know what the Shura god, the law enforcer of the god realm and the representative of absolute fairness among the 5 great gods, will think when he knows that he actually has a subordinate like you." The eyes of the god of death were full of hatred when he looked at Lu Qiufeng, but he could not move, so he could not do anything to Lu Qiufeng. He could only watch him and listen to him speak those words, which gradually removed the crown and divine robe that he had covered himself with since he became a god. He was just a human who inherited the throne of God. But for him, he had been a human for too long, so long that he subconsciously believed that he was originally a god. When he was a human, he had tried hard to pursue the goal of becoming a god, but he had long gone. He had died long ago. Lu Qiufeng, you have forgotten your original intention and are willing to fall into the false light of God. In this way, You are not ashamed to call yourself the first law enforcer under the command of the Shura God? Do you really have the face to kill those innocent creatures in the name of the Shura God?" In a trance, the god of death seemed to see the appearance of the wild god again. She trembled in fear when she saw him. But she was willing to die with him for a human. "Lu Qifeng, Hypris, you are not worthy of being a god." At this moment, Lu Qifeng in the eyes of the god of killing suddenly overlapped with the figure of the red-haired Shura god in his memory. They seemed to say that sentence at the same time. In the ears of the god of killing, it was his boss, Shura God, who personally deprived him of his position as the god of killing. At this moment, he was nothing. Just a human with the cultivation of a second-level god. And a human with only a little consciousness left. A broken soul that could be slaughtered at will. In the white light of nothingness, cold air suddenly attacked from all directions, and finally condensed on the Qifeng sword in Lu Qifeng's hand, forming a magnificent white pattern. The next moment, all the cold murderous aura on Lu Qifeng's body broke out of his body, forming an invisible killing intent field within a radius of 100 meters. The field of the god of killing. Lu Qifeng, I always thought that this field of the god of killing represented you. But now, he slowly raised his right hand, and the tip of Qifeng's sword pointed directly at the center of the eyebrows of the god of killing below. As he moved, all the cold murderous aura within the killing god's domain also moved at the same time. In the eyes of the killing god, all the murderous aura condensed into a giant sword in the air. And every strand of murderous aura that made up the giant sword was an extremely sharp and deadly small sword. And the next moment, the giant sword in the air fell down. It directly cut his body. It's just a literal domain, killing god. Lu Qifeng turned his wrist, and Jiu Feng was turned by him into a beautiful sword flower, and he stood behind him. As his voice fell, the killing god's body disappeared, and exploded into a stream of light flying all over the sky in the cutting of countless murderous auras. Lu Qifeng sacrificed Jiu Feng and swallowed all the scattered energy. And those energies were the fragments of the killing god's consciousness. The previous attack completely wiped out the killing god's consciousness. In this way, Lu Qifeng no longer had to worry about the risk of the killing god's consciousness reviving. When Jiu Feng swallowed all the fragments of consciousness, Lu Qifeng recalled it and looked at the white patterns on the sword. And that was the killing god's domain. Looking at the pattern formed by the god-killing domain on Jiu Feng, Lu Feng recalled every detail of the past. Whether you can kill the gods depends on whether you can recognize your own heart. Those words seemed to still ring in his ears. Congratulations, Lu Feng, you have completed all the tests. I will teleport you back to the present and please accept your reward. The voice of Kyankin Wenking Valley also sounded in his mind at this time, which also meant that his test was completely over. Then which heart are you? He seemed to be asking himself. Lu Feng held Jiu Feng tightly, and his whole body was bathed in the golden light of Kyankin Wenking Valley, and slowly disappeared. Shafixin, Lu Qifeng has completed his assessment. Tang Liu was stunned for a moment after hearing the voice that suddenly came to his mind, and then said, "He's back, yes. However, this does surprise me." Tang Liu became a little curious, and asked, "Oh, why? Don't you think he should complete the assessment later?" "That's not the case. I'm just a little surprised that he, with his soul saint cultivation, defeated the consciousness of a second-level god, and in such a short time. Even if the consciousness of that second-level god doesn't have much left, it shouldn't be an existence that he can defeat now. So, why is this?" Tang Liu felt a little confused when he listened to the other party's meaningful tone. After a moment, he said, "Hey, are you doubting that I helped him? You can see clearly that I have been here without moving. Besides, if I can act under your nose, why would I listen to you and stay here?" "That's true." Tang Liu listened to the still meaningful leisurely tone and said impatiently, "Okay, aren't you looking for a soul beast for me? Hurry up." The other party laughed. Okay, it's only been a short time, and you dare to order me around." With a flash of golden light, Lu Qifeng returned to the bottom of the lake and stood on the golden and silver platform. The next moment, 2 rays of light fell from the sky and turned into 2 jade-like soul rings in front of Lu Qifeng. "Lu Qifeng, congratulations on completing all the assessments. I will reward you with 2 God-given soul rings." Kyankin Wenking Valley introduced Lu Qifeng to the role of the God-given soul rings as usual, and also gave him the 2 choices of leaving and staying temporarily. Lu Qifeng naturally chose to stay temporarily. After accepting the 2 God-given soul rings, he left the platform. Then, he saw Yi Lingling and Mu Jing standing under the platform. Chapter 347 Numenong Sect? However, at this moment, the two girls were in a state of meditation and did not notice him. Then, Lu Qifeng was attracted by the 8th blood red soul ring surrounding Mu Jing. A trace of envy flashed in his eyes. He felt the soul power in his body, then flew up, quietly sat not far from Yi Lingling, and began to practice. He is now level 79. If he works harder, he should be able to reach level 80, and then absorb a soul ring and break through to the soul Douluo realm. By then, he will also have his first 100,000-year soul ring. Su Chen looked around anxiously, and the next moment, his eyes blurred, and then he saw Su Yu covering his forehead, looking drowsy, and suddenly appeared in front of him. He hurried over to support Su Yu and asked, "Are you okay?" After waiting for a long time, Su Yu nodded and said, "It's okay, just a little dizzy." She looked at Su Chen. "Let's go out first." Su Chen nodded and supported Su Yu towards the exit of the canyon. Although the exit seemed very close to them, it still took Su Chen more than half an hour to walk out with Su Yu. When the two were under the afternoon sun again, they couldn't help squinting their eyes. After all, the visibility in the canyon was not very high, and eyes that had adapted to the darkness suddenly encountered strong light, which was a bit uncomfortable. After walking out of the canyon, Su Yu's condition was much better. Su Chen took her to a tree for a short rest, then asked her, "Did you look back in the yin-yang soul refining abyss?" Su Yu was confused. "I didn't." Su Chen asked, "Then why do you feel dizzy? If you didn't look back in it, what did you encounter in it?" Su Yu continued to be confused. "I didn't encounter anything. Isn't it half light element and half dark element in it? I feel dizzy. Isn't it normal to leave the yin-yang soul refining abyss?" Su Chen, "Then why didn't I feel dizzy?" Su Yu glanced at him and said with great disgust, "Maybe it's because you are a man, and I am just a weak woman." Su Chen, "Does this have anything to do with gender?" Su Yu waved her hand and said impatiently, "Okay, don't bother me. I have to practice and adjust quickly. Since you are fine, protect me." Su Chen, who had to be humble online just because he was born a few minutes later. Su Yu sat cross-legged, adjusted his breathing, and began to meditate and practice. Although she was still a quasi-soul king at level 50, the soul power in her body was already so powerful that it far exceeded that of any soul king. Perhaps, after she absorbed the God-given soul rings given by Tang Liu, her cultivation level would be able to rise to the level of Soul Emperor in one fell swoop. However, when she thought of Tang Liu, she always felt as if she had forgotten something. Moreover, it was a relatively important thing. But she couldn't remember it. Since she couldn't remember it, it shouldn't exist. Never mind. Su Chen stood not far away, looking at the exit of the canyon in front of him. The entrance to the canyon was a grassland, but the exit was a sparse forest. And behind the forest was a dangerous mountain. The mountain was very high and seemed to reach the sky. The sky there was also very dark, and there seemed to be lightning circling above the clouds. When his eyes caught a mountain, he could no longer look away. He couldn't help but be a little curious about what would be on it. "Don't think about it, it's not a place you can go to for the time being." A voice suddenly sounded from his ear, startling Su Chen so much that he almost launched an attack. However, after seeing the face of the owner of the voice clearly, he forcibly stopped his intention to attack, and then said, "Captain, the person who came was naturally Tang Liu." He waved his hand gently, and blue light splashed out, helping Su Chen adjust with somewhat disordered breath. Then he said, "Didn't we agree that I will take you back to the team after you come out of the yin-yang soul refining abyss?" Su Chen remembered, breathed a sigh of relief, and said, "I remember." Tang Liu continued the previous topic, looking at the peak that reached the sky, and said, "There is a very powerful sect hidden on it. Although there are not too many people in this sect, the combat effectiveness of each of them should not be underestimated. This is somewhat similar to the Haoshan sect, but the number of people in the sect is much smaller than that of the Haoshan sect. Although they are a sect, in fact their martial spirits are not unified, but diverse, and there are also good and bad ones. But the martial spirits possessed by the sect do have a general name, and no matter good or bad, their martial spirits are very special and can be awakened a second time. Once their martial spirits awaken a second time, they will become stronger and will burst out with strength several times stronger than before." Su Chen asked, "What is the name of this sect?" Tang Liu answered him, "The Body Sect." Su Chen repeated in a low voice, "Body Sect." Then he seemed to remember something and said, "Their martial spirits are all body martial spirits?" Tang Liu glanced at him, You know, Su Chen nodded, I heard my grandfather mention it when I was a child, and I also know a few people with body martial spirits. Well, I also met a soul master from the body sect when I was fighting against the Xingluo Royal High-Level Soul Master Academy at the All-Continental Advanced Soul Master Academy Elite Competition. I was a little confused at first, why I could meet someone with a body martial spirit outside. Logically, all soul masters with body martial spirits should be accepted by the body sect, but this body sect is actually located in Xingluo. For soul masters, it is not too far from Xingluo City. No wonder there are soul masters with body martial spirits in the Xingluo Empire. Tang Liu smiled and said. Su Chen asked, is this place close to Xingluo City? At least it's not too far from me. Su Chen? At this time, Su Yu also finished regulating her breath, opened her eyes, and saw Tang Liu and Su Chen standing side by side not far away. She stood up and said with some surprise, Captain, you are here? Then can we return to the team to absorb the spirit ring? Tang Liu smiled and nodded, yes, I will take you back to the team now. As soon as he finished speaking, he casually threw a Shaolin mark at his feet, and then teleported away with Su Yu and Su Chen. I see. A blue light flashed, and Tang Liu appeared on the ice cap and sat cross-legged again. Did you pick them up? Tang Liu nodded, they are all in Kyankin Valley, ready to absorb the spirit ring. Chapter 348 The Truth? The answer? Well, those two successfully raised their martial soul fusion to 100% in the yin-yang soul refining abyss. Have you told them that they can practice together now? Tang Liu rolled his eyes and said, of course I won't forget such a thing. Moreover, with 4 years of accumulation, plus those 2 immortal herbs in this yin-yang soul refining abyss, I estimate that they can reach the realm of Soul Douluo in one fell swoop. Coupled with the 100% compatible martial soul fusion, there will be absolutely no problem for them to fight against Tidal Douluo, but you have to understand that as long as they haven't reached the level of Tidal Douluo, that is far from enough. In a while, all the Shrek 7 devils will be titled. Tang Liu snorted and said, you said there is still some time. Can't my team members practice to the level of Tidal Douluo during this time? They have the Sea God's Divine Test, which can help them improve their soul power quickly and without worries, but what else do you have? Kyankin Questioning Valley, Yin-Yang Soul Refining Abyss, Ice and Fire Yin-Yang Eyes, all the opportunities you can think of have been used. What else can you do to help your team members quickly improve their soul power? Tang Liu smiled and said, yes, I don't have any good places to take them for the time being. But they still have me, this humanoid cultivation accelerator. Well, that makes sense. Okay, let's not talk about anything else. The rare and exotic animals I found for you are all here, get ready to absorb them. As soon as the voice fell, 2 more rays of light fell from the sky. When the light dissipated, a blood-red soul ring with 5 golden patterns and a white skull like the moon were revealed. It's just a bright loon elf I found abroad. It's the elf queen of this elf tribe. A little of her energy was converted into the spirit ring and head spirit bone of this 500,000-year-old bright loon elf queen. You can absorb them together. When you absorb this head spirit bone, your mental power should be able to directly upgrade from the tangible and intangible realm to the tangible and material realm. At that time, you can absorb the million-year-old torso bone and spirit ring, and then start to condense the second soul core. Tang Liu nodded, okay, then he asked in great confusion, but, do we really have such things as elves over there? Yes, werewolves, vampires and so on. They are not fake, but they can only be seen in Europe. Tang Liu, my goodness, I feel like I have lived in vain for those 16 years. Then do we really have immortal cultivators in China? Is there a dragon group? And, since there are dragons, is there also Castle College? And blah blah blah. Have you read too many novels? Tang Liu, won't you know when you come back? Is there any point in asking so many questions now? Anyway, you can't come back and see it with your own eyes. Tang Liu, okay, I'll focus on absorbing the spirit rings and spirit bones. I won't talk anymore. He just absorbed for a while and then spoke again. Why did you send me here? You should have a vague answer to this question, but I want to know the real answer. It's not time yet. What are you testing? Am I not qualified yet? If you don't concentrate on absorbing, be careful not to get possessed. I won't save you then, and you will fail. If you have to test me, why don't you come directly to our side? Didn't you say that there are elves, werewolves and vampires, rare beasts, and cultivators over there? Then why do you have to come to this Douluo continent? Because it's too slow, and I can't wait. Slow. What is written in those novels is correct. It is probably written by some cultivator who has nothing better to do. For a cultivator to become strong enough, it usually takes time to accumulate. 10 years, 100 years, 1,000 years, 10,000 years, or even tens of thousands of years. Not everyone is like the protagonists in those novels, who have opportunities everywhere and become so powerful that no one can defeat them after a few hundred chapters. If the spiritual energy is not revived now, it will be several times more difficult for cultivators to break through from acquired to innate, so you put me or more people into a world like Douluo continent under the guise of time travel? Just to let us practice quickly, more or less. I don't quite understand. By doing this, can we bring our cultivation in these worlds back to our original world? Yes, but there must be some limitations, right? Because of the dimensional level, even if you have reached the highest level of God King in Douluo continent, after you go back, you will only reach the second level of the strength level division over there. Of course, this second level is already better than most people. But what I need is a higher end combat power, so you failed. No, you are just my first attempt. Even if I fail, it is just to accumulate experience for success. Besides, the most important reason for sending you here is to let you accumulate experience. Why? The Howland Magic Encyclopedia that you have seen, yes, its original name is actually Mantra Consumption Spells, which records some spells that consume a lot of spiritual power. But these spells can be replaced by other spells, so you gave it to me. No, so I threw it away, Tang Liu, but later I picked it up again and thought of a better way to deal with it. Tang Liu's mouth twitched. Your better way to deal with it is to give it to me, right? I said. It records some spells that consume a lot of spiritual power. But look at yourself. Do you still feel mantra consumption when you use it now? Tang Liu was stunned. It seems that I haven't felt that my soul power is insufficient for a long time. Faintly, he seemed to have grasped something, and said quickly, tell me the real answer. Not now. Tang Liu gritted his teeth fiercely. Then what assessment do I have to complete? Tell me quickly. You know, after the era of Dao Yi, the protagonist of Dao is no longer Tang San. As a person of the same era as Tang San, do you think you can still occupy an important position in the era of Dao? But the assessment you have not completed is obviously not in the era of Dao Yi. After all, this era will soon end. So, what do you think this assessment will be? Tang Liu finished absorbing the spirit ring and spirit bone, and his eyes subconsciously looked at the sea surface, and then went all the way down. His brain was working rapidly, combining and deducing all the information. Chapter 349 Yin and Yang Complementarity. My next assessment is related to Hao. I believe you have guessed what your ending will be in this era. Look, the National Master's mansion that you asked Yubei to build, isn't that the birthplace of the protagonist later? Tang Liu said, but I don't believe it has anything to do with Hao. First of all, Tang San will definitely not be able to pass that level. Don't worry, it's not Hao, but a brand new person. Tang Liu suddenly had a bad feeling. You are not going to send another person over, are you? Me? No, this is none of my business. After I finish your business, I'm going to go out and have fun, and I don't have the time to pay attention to what you do here. Are you going to find someone else to take over? Look at what you said. The person who is responsible for sending you here was not me. I was just the person who proposed the plan. Now, I'm just handing you over to the person who should be in charge of your matter. It can only be said that the property is returned to the original owner? How can it be said to be taking over? Tang Liu exclaimed. What a guy. Alright, there's no point in saying more. Hurry up and absorb the million-year-old torso bone and spirit ring, and then I'll see how you condense the second soul core. I've been paying too much attention to Douluo recently, so I'm catching up on the plot of Douluo. I just happened to see Hao condensing the second soul core in Douluo. It is said that the yin-yang complementary condensation method will be very painful, and I want to see how painful it will be for you. And I'm in a good mood now. If you can't hold on, maybe I'll help you. Of course, this is actually unnecessary. After all, the million-year-old spirit ring and spirit bone all come from the energy of a Chinese dragon. Hao relied on a dragon pill to strengthen his physique to be infinitely close to that of a giant dragon, and successfully withstood the impact of the second soul core of yin-yang complementation, becoming the first human to cultivate a second soul core in the yin-yang complementary way. Tang Liu's body was already strengthened by the soul bones attached to the wings of the Ice and Fire Dragon King. If the million-year-old causal dragon emperor's soul bones and soul rings could not strengthen his physique to the point where he could easily withstand the impact of the second soul core of the yin-yang complementary soul, then it would be too unworthy of the name. Tang Liu also knew this, so he was not worried. He originally thought that it would be difficult for him to absorb the million-year level soul ring, but the actual absorption process was very smooth. The soul power of that pure gold soul ring was very gentle. Despite this, Tang Liu still felt the majestic aura in it, like mountains and rivers. However, this aura only made him feel friendly and did not cause him any harm. Thinking that this soul ring came from a Chinese dragon whose body was the key vein, one of the dragon veins, Tang Liu also understood the reason. Chinese people, Chinese soul. Ahem, no more distractions, continue to absorb soul rings. In order to better withstand the million-year soul ring, Tang Liu first absorbed the million-year torso bone. That piece of trunk bone also has the characteristics of soul bone, that is, it can be easily absorbed by soul masters of any level. Tang Liu absorbs things with this characteristic in seconds. And this million-year soul ring only took him half an hour. Perhaps, this is the fit. When the circle of golden soul rings appeared behind the two red soul rings of his clear sky hammer, it meant that he successfully absorbed this million-year soul ring. But when Tang Liu thought it was over, immediately after that circle of golden soul rings, 4 more circles of the same golden soul rings slowly emerged. At this point, Tang Liu clearly felt that his second martial soul, the clear sky hammer, already had 7 soul rings. Tang Liu, but then, he also reacted, maybe the million-year soul ring he absorbed was like a million-year soul spirit. And his soul spirit gave him 5 soul rings at once. Of course, he didn't have a soul spirit. If this is true, then when he absorbed the 500,000-year soul ring of the bright moon fairy queen before, was it the same situation? To verify it, he had to condense the second soul core first and break through to level 90. Tang Liu immediately started to condense his second soul core in the Dansong acupoint, that is, the middle danshan. In his lower danshan, the blue-gold soul core belonging to the virtual blue-silver emperor was rotating in a clockwise direction. Therefore, his second soul core, which belonged to the clear sky hammer martial spirit, should rotate in a counterclockwise direction. Tang Liu did not give his first soul core any face at all. He immediately condensed most of his soul power and started to condense the soul core directly. Because of the experience of the previous 6 soul power compressions and 1 soul core condensation, Tang Liu quickly condensed the second soul core to the point where it began to absorb autonomous soul power. However, what surprised Tang Liu was that his first soul core did not release soul power to rent the formation of the second soul core in order to preserve the soul power rotating around it. Instead, it generously distributed the soul power around it, allowing those soul powers to also rotate along the second soul core. This made Tang Liu a little confused. However, it seems to be a good thing at present, so Tang Liu began to accelerate the process of condensing the second soul core. Soon, the second soul core was basically formed, and it was so smooth that Tang Liu was a little unbelievable and even doubted his life. No, the second soul core is here to compete with you for territory. As the first soul core, shouldn't you hit it hard? It seemed to sense Tang Liu's intention, so the first soul core took action. The first soul core released a ray of blue-gold soul power and went towards the second soul core along the rotation direction of the first soul core. After that ray of soul power crossed the center line between the 2 soul cores, it followed the rotation direction of the second soul core and approached the second soul core all the way. Soon, that ray of soul power was absorbed by the second soul core. The second soul core trembled, and then it also released a ray of dark golden soul power. Similarly, this ray of dark golden soul power crossed the center line along the rotation direction of the second soul core, and then followed the rotation direction of the first soul core, was attracted by the first soul core, and then absorbed by the first soul core. The first soul core also trembled. Then, Tang Liu only felt a sudden violent buzzing sound in his body, and his own consciousness disappeared for a moment. All he could see was a vast expanse of white in front of him. But this situation did not last too long, and soon he returned to his original state. Then he saw many soul power vortices of different sizes appearing at the midline of the 2 soul cores. This means that the complementary yin and yang have successfully condensed the second soul core. The 2 soul cores have successfully established a connection. Tang Liu, is it really that simple? A regretful voice sounded. Oh, I thought it would hurt you to death, but this is it, Tang Liu. Chapter 350 Sacrifice. In any case, no matter how casual the process was, Tang Liu still completed the process of condensing the second soul core in the way of yin-yang complementation, and successfully broke through the 89th level and reached the 90th level. And as he guessed, his first martial soul, at the moment he just entered the 90th level, once again added a soul ring for him, thus helping him enter the realm of title Douluo. And the extra soul ring, like the 8th soul ring of his first martial soul, is the 500,000-year soul ring of the Queen of the Bright Moon Elf. After that, Tang Liu continued to condense the 9th soul ring of his Haolan magic. Now, of his 3 martial souls, only the second martial soul, the Clear Sky Hammer, is left with 2 soul rings. As long as the 2 soul rings are completed, he will be a title Douluo with a complete soul ring of the 3-life martial soul. So he looked up at the sky again, his eyes full of expectation. Okay, it's ready. This time, 3 rays of light descended, 2 complete leg bones, and a circle of blood-red soul rings with 3 golden lines. Look how much I care about you. In order to make you look more impressive in the future, the spirit rings I gave you all have gold patterns. Tang Liu smiled and began to absorb the spirit rings and spirit bones. Thank you, the spirit rings and spirit bones I gave you this time are a little special. They come from a little creature called the yin-yang polar beast. After repeated consideration, I turn part of its power into your spirit rings and spirit bones. It can be regarded as giving you a chance to experience new abilities and letting you see in advance what our people can do. But don't be too happy too soon. When you come back, I will recycle this power. Tang Liu was not very happy in an instant. Recycle it again? Of course, this power is still a little dangerous to you. If I don't recycle it, and you accidentally lose yourself, it's not a big deal. If you make a bigger mess, it will be very troublesome for me to clean up. Okay, I got it. Tell me in detail, what are the abilities of these 2 spirit bones? You can call those 2 leg bones Yaoyang left leg bone and Yaoyang right leg bone. As the name implies, they have the power of yin and yang respectively. The level of these 2 powers is equivalent to an origin power. Well, it was born at about the same time as me, so even if it is the most peaceful and stable origin power, it is still very dangerous. Tang Liu understood. Its status is similar to that of chaos magic and phoenix force. Yes, you can say that. Does it really have to be recovered? No discussion. Okay, Tang Liu secretly thought it was a pity, and then continued to absorb and replenish with spirit rings and spirit bones. Half an hour later, all the absorption was completed. At this point, Tang Liu's spirit power was pushed to level 96 by several spirit rings and several spirit bones. 2 more levels, it would be time to prepare to condense the 3rd soul core. But Tang Liu knew that even if he cultivated to level 98, it was still far from the time to condense the 3rd soul core. This has nothing to do with whether he can or not, but he just has this feeling. Once he successfully condenses the 3rd soul core, he will be able to break through to level 99, and then it will not be difficult to condense the so-called last soul ring of the Haolan magic. But now, if he has the 10th soul ring of the Haolan magic at the end of this era, perhaps everything he has done before will be in vain. Because he knows that the 10th soul ring of the Haolan magic means that he has no opponent in this universe. Xingdao Great Forest. A soul hunting operation is quietly underway. Led by Bibi Dong herself, the target is the 2 soul beast kings of the Xingdao Forest. The Azure Bull Python Daming, and the Titan Giant Aberming. However, Bibi Dong now lacks the martial soul fusion skill of Ju Douluo and Ghost Douluo, the bipolar static field, which makes it difficult for her attack to be effective against the 2 soul beast kings. After all, she is still very afraid of going head-to-head with the Azure Bull Python and the Titan Giant Ape. But after all, the Wuhan Hall has more than just the 2 title Douluos, Ju and Ghost. So generally speaking, it is only a matter of time before Bibi Dong defeats the 200,000-year soul beasts. Of course, we also know that this woman is just hiding her strength. Her cultivation must have reached level 98, or even level 99. Would a soul master of this level really be afraid of 200,000-year soul beasts? Even if these 2 soul beasts are as powerful as fierce beasts because of their bloodline. But a 200,000-year beast is only 200,000 years old after all. Even if 2 of them attack together, they can't do anything to a human soul master of level 98. What's more, Bibi Dong is a twin martial spirit owner. And by chance, Tang San was also taking Xiao Wu to this Xingdao Great Forest to make up for his remaining spirit rings. Not long after they arrived in this Xingdao Great Forest, they ran into Daming and Erming, who were running away from Bibi Dong. But now, Daming and Erming are in extremely bad condition, and it is obvious that they have been poisoned by Bibi Dong's martial spirit. The two of them took over Daming and Erming, and then ran into Bibi Dong, who caught up. Therefore, Tang San had to let Xiao Wu take Daming and Erming away first, and he went to fight Bibi Dong. This was also the first time the two fought. In this duel, Tang San used the sea cucumber trident to smash Bibi Dong's body, forcing her to use her immortal soul skill from the 100,000-year 9th soul ring of Xiao Wu's mother to repair her body with all her strength. This also bought Tang San time to escape. However, when Tang San found Xiao Wu and Daming and Erming, he found that Daming and Erming were already dying. So in the end, the Azure Bull Python and the Titan Giant Ape chose to sacrifice and fulfill Tang San. So far, Tang San's first martial spirit, the Blue Silver Emperor, obtained the 9th soul ring from the Azure Bull Python, and the second martial spirit, the Clear Sky Hammer, obtained the first soul ring from the Titan Giant Ape. In addition, there was also the left arm bone of the Titan Giant Ape and the right arm bone of the Azure Bull Python. After that, Tang San and Xiao Wu did not stay in the starred out Great Forest for too long to prevent Bibi Dong from hunting them down. Bibi Dong had just repaired her body at this time. However, on her nearly perfect face, there was not a trace of anger and resentment for the soul beast being robbed. Her expression was always calm, as if she had known all this for a long time. She finally glanced at the direction where Tang San left, and finally led all the people in the spirit hall to leave the starred out Great Forest. There was no trace of nostalgia, as if the person who had been persistently chasing the Azure Bull Python and the Titan Giant Ape before was not her. Not long after, the starred out Great Forest fell into its previous tranquility again. But soon, the soul beasts living in this forest discovered that the auras of the two forest kings that had been intimidating them had disappeared. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.